This is a special meeting of the Water Pollution Control Authority and Town Council meeting of North Brantford, Connecticut, Tuesday, April 6th, 2021, at 7:12 p.m. in the North Brantford Intermediate School cafeteria, 654 Foxen Road, North Brantford, 7 p.m. I'd like to start with the salute to the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, you want to do roll call, please?
Mayor Viglione.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Zampano.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Diamond. Here. Councilor Duty. Councilor Downs.
Here.
Councilor Fawnin. Councilor Gold.
Here.
Councilor Palicia.
Here. All right, next we have minutes of previous meetings, March 16, 2021, Town Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any questions about it? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Viglione.
I'm abstaining.
Deputy Mayor Zampano.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Diamond.
Yes.
Councilor Downs.
Yes.
Councilor Gold. Councilor Palicia.
Yes. Okay, next we have the March 23rd, 2021 budget workshop.
So moved.
Second.
Same people. Michelle. Can I have a vote?
Roll call or?
Yeah.
Mayor Viglione.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Zampano.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Diamond. Yes. Councilor Downs.
Yes.
Councilor Gold.
Yes.
Councilor Palicia.
Yes. Okay, next we'll move into the Water Pollution Control Authority agenda. First is correspondence and citizen statements. None. Next is unfinished business. There's none. Next we have new business. There's none. And then we have citizen statements and petitions. Okay. Nothing there either. We'll move into the regular town council meeting. First we have reports of committees, boards, and commissions. First we have Economic Development Commission, Roger Soloway monthly report.
EDC met last night. I was unable to attend their meeting, but Roger has quite an extensive report in our packet. And I'm not sure if Mike has anything to add.
Yeah, they did. They had a good meeting. I was able to attend most of the meeting, and they had introduced the new chamber director and also our town planner, Will Agresta. So they were both guests of last night's meeting. I did not catch the rest of it, but Councilor Angeloni is correct that the report from Roger is extensive and leads with a business exchange scheduled for Tuesday, April 13th. That'll be a Zoom meeting at 8:30 a.m. So anyone interested in the council, just check your packet.
Okay. Thank you. Next is Parks and Recreation.
Park and Recreation met on March 30th, or March 23rd, they had their meeting. I was only there for about the first 45 minutes, and then we had budget workshops, but in that time frame, they talked a lot on the Poco Fest and when they will be making their decision to move forward, if they're moving forward with it. A lot of it has to do with the guidelines and the requirements that East Shore Health is going to have set up, and if we can accommodate all of those. They will be making their decision at their April meeting at the end of the month so that we would have their recommendation to the council for the beginning of May. They are also doing 2 fundraisers right now supporting local businesses They're raffle baskets that you can buy tickets for. And Anthony, did the whole Venmo thing get resolved?
Not yet, no.
How soon before that is resolved? And what is the issue? Because I thought there was a workaround.
Well, the issue is that TD Bank wants nothing to do with Venmo, so reached out to Key Bank. Key Bank internally says yes. Their headquarters down in New York, and in New York, it's not allowed municipalities to have Venmo accounts. So I had to call into the treasurer's office in Connecticut, I spoke to the comptroller's office, to try and get some guidance if Venmo is even allowed in municipal accounts in Connecticut. So once we get over that threshold question, we have the paperwork in place to sign up for the Key Bank account, but if it's not allowed per the banking regulations of Connecticut, the whole thing is a moot point.
Okay. So,
We have a potential workaround that Jesse is working on to establish a Venmo account independently through her town email and town cell phone as a way to capture that and have it, the nexus to the town would be her connection, her email, her cell phone. So there might be a way around it, even if the state comes back and says no, municipalities can't have Venmo accounts, we may have a way to get those tickets out there to be sold through a Venmo application. So we'll have an answer hopefully from the state, I'm hoping tomorrow. But the other way that Jesse had presented, we sanctioned that, not the ideal situation quite honestly, but trying to get tickets sold in a matter of 2 weeks is going to be difficult. So don't want to be an obstacle in situations. So we're kind of bending the rules a little bit to make that happen, and hopefully that makes it a success.
okay.
Would
All
it be
right.
helpful to ask CCM as well?
I can try that. I'll try that to the banking commission.
Yeah, I think they might, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything about the Memorial Day Parade? We talk about that at all?
No, because that's us, that's the town council
Okay.
for the Memorial Day Parade. And I think that's on our agenda. Later
Okay.
on our agenda.
All right, next is the Police Commission.
The Police Commission's next meeting is Monday, April 12th.
Thank you, Marie. Next is Fire Commission.
This Thursday.
Thanks, Ron. Board of Education and Town Council Communications Subcommittee.
There's, the next meeting that is going to be scheduled for that came up in our budget workshop, and it has to do with the Munis platform for the financial software for both the town and the Board of Ed. So I believe they were having a team meeting this morning, Anthony, is that it? That you were coming up with questions for them so that we could have some answers prior to doing the joint meeting?
Correct. We presented the questions that we had internally created and Shauna had created and forwarded, and some concerns that Councilor Downs had raised, and we had answers to all those questions. So we think we're on the path to go with the separate databases as a means just to get this rocking and to minimize any kind of disruptions and any kind of potential conflicts. There are conflicts where if we want to do AP and they're doing AP, they can't be done at the same time. There's some coordination effort that if we went separate databases would be eliminated. And that seems to be the consensus that we're looking to go with that.
So the decision's been made, we're not meeting?
No, we haven't had
Oh.
we're going to have a meeting with that subcommittee. I was going to bring it up tonight later on to see what your schedule looks like. I told her to be prepared for either tomorrow or Thursday night, thinking like 6:30 prior to the council meetings for, I don't sure what your schedule looks like, or I think it's Councilor Zampanos and that, or Deputy Mayor Zampanos and that subcommittee. I'll wait till Shauna comes later, see what their schedule is like. We can pick a time that works for everybody and hash it out. The girl from Munis is available also to join on the call to, again, address any other complaints or criticisms or concerns you may have. So.
Can we have an in-person meeting, not an on-call? I mean, if Munis can't come, that they're on-call, I just would, personally, I prefer an in-person.
Well, we could all gather in the town hall and then have her on the screen, but I think she's in Massachusetts, I believe. So.
Okay, whatever works. I mean, for those that are local, I would
Right.
prefer an in-person.
Yeah, okay. we'll wait till the Board of Ed folks come later, we can pick a time that's best for everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Next is Planning and Zoning Commission.
Last meeting was canceled, next meeting is April 15th.
Okay. Next is North Brantford Police Department Facility and Town Center Advisory Committee.
Okay, we had a meeting today. During the meeting, we approved the general contractor specifications and the clerk of the works specifications. We also approved, and I don't know if everybody was aware of this, we approved the town's agreement to provide a bench at the Mooney property in memory of Joe Mooney's wife. That's something that was agreed to when the Mooney property was sold to the town. So that there will be a bench with an inscription, with a plaque. The folks have a concern about the work on the part of the building official. They feel that it's something people have to be concerned about once you have the police facility being built, the high school being built, and all the other jobs that that person has. I understand that there is something on the agenda today at 13H that will give some relief to the building official, but there was a concern addressed by the committee. We will have one last meeting on April 14th before we turn the project over to the building committee. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Marie. Next is Finance Subcommittee.
Our next meeting should be next week, I think we're scheduled for.
Okay. Thanks, Rose. Permanent Project Building Committee, Rusty.
Good evening.
Hello.
Is there a microphone that you want him to speak into?
One of the ones.
Right here?
Oh, that'd be good.
Is,
Do they not put, that's the middle school, so that's not mine. Are those the batteries for it, maybe?
there's an IT person right here.
Here, oh. Yeah.
Good job, Bruce.
Wow.
So, good evening. I did submit a written report on the status of the project. We have completed the design development phase, and it was submitted. Copies have been made to the building committee, the building officials, the fire marshal. Everybody is going to have an option to review it. At the next building committee meeting, we're meeting every week. So next Monday, we're looking to get the approval on the design development phase. We are scheduled to be at the state. The report says the 15th. That was the original date. We were asked to move it out to the day, the 16th, because of a conflict on the part of the state, which we were all able to accommodate. So we're actually going to be at the state on the 16th. Well, we won't be there. It's a virtual meeting. So everything that we have will be documented and put into a PDF format. So that gets emailed to them, and then we do a virtual meeting with all the members from the state. So that is scheduled, and we're moving forward with it. A couple of key things here, just to reiterate, most of our approvals are moving forward. The hazmat consultant was on site this week. They were doing destructive testing for hazmat, PCBs, asbestos, and so on. And that work is complete. There's just one. They think they need one more day of testing. That's critical because that's all part of phase one. If you recall, this 16th we'll be presenting to the state the DDR set, the Design Development Review set, which is for both phase 1 and 2. Just to refresh everybody's memory, phase 1 is demolition and hazmat. Phase 2 is the rest of the project. So this meeting on the 16th will be for phase 1 and 2. And then on the 29th, we have our second meeting, which is for the PCR, or the plan review meeting for phase 1. So there's all these acronyms, but that meeting will require approvals from the Board of Education, approvals from the building committee, there's some documentation that has to be completed. It's all been scheduled. meeting with the board right on the 22nd. The building committee meeting will be on the 26th, and then the review itself will occur on the 29th. Once that review occurs, what we hope to do is be able to, since it's a minor phase in the project, we hope to have the approval from the state. Because after that approval, then we will be authorized to get a letter saying we can go out to bid. So then the vein can put the packages out to bid. During this time, they're also going to be developing cost estimates for the project itself. So those are some of the critical milestones for the high school. We do have several RFPs for different consultants. We have talked about a third-party structure review, there's a third-party code review, there's the clerk of the works, and then there's a couple of others that may be coming up. We had two other consultants, the hazmat consulting for the testing during construction. So the council had given us the authority to work directly and have the hazmat consultant under us for the pre-construction or the design phase of the testing and development of those documents. There's a second phase, which is during construction. They have to do testing. They're required to test before the material is taken off the site. So that's another phase of testing. Originally, I thought, well, we can just continue that contract under us, but I got some estimates from them, and it's a fairly large value. It's over $200,000. It's a very conservative estimate. So I don't know if that's something, if you want to just continue with the same company, you want to go out to bid on it. We are prepared to go out to bid. It'll be a very short period, but I think it can be done. So that's one other RFP that we will pull together if we so choose and have to you at your next meeting for approval. And then the second one is for the deep testing. So what deep requires is during the entire project, weekly visits, because we disturb more than in our site impact is on more than 5 acres. So anytime it rains, they require an engineer to be on site to look at what happens for the rain, water, and runoff, etc. So that's another RFP that we had budgeted about $50,000 in our budget. The estimate that I received is around 61, but that's another consultant that works under us. You can choose to just continue with that consultant. Everything is billed on an hour basis so that each time they come out. So they have to come out every week, so it's very prescribed. Using the existing consultant, the advantage is that they're on site in a number of cases anyway, because they have to come to job site meetings, they've got to be here for certain events. So I know that their number of visits would be reduced. Having somebody, another firm, will have to come out obviously more often. The difference though would be that maybe we get a better price from the second firm, as in terms of the price of the visit. So those are the pros and cons, and you have to decide whether you want to just continue with that and assign them to us, or you want, we'll just develop an RFP and go out for a bid on that. Other than that, we've had our first security meeting. We are going to have our second security meeting Thursday. That's what we call a page turn, where we're going to go over every security document and review that with all the police chief, everybody that needs to be part of that discussion. And that's going to be finalizing the approach to security in the high school. I did attach a budget work summary just to give you an idea of where we are. We still have a good healthy contingency on the owner's contingency side. These numbers change based on quotes that we get from various vendors, so that's why you sometimes see the variance in some of the numbers. So as we adjust these, we get quotes on, let's say, the hazmat testing or the deep test sectors. It's, once those numbers are real, if they're under that number, then we put that money into contingency. If they're over that number, then we take money out of contingency and put it towards that particular contract. Then that's a standard process. At the end of the day, our budget document is set up. We've had discussions about how this process is going to work. Specifically, how the process will work in terms of the invoice coming in, who receives the invoice, how it gets documented. I have a spreadsheet that we enter it into that automatically fills in all the paperwork that will be necessary all the way to the end of the job. So every document will be in a specific file. And it's important to do that because if the project closeout, that's what we need to stay. So this will track the project closeout documents from day one all the way through. So it doesn't matter who, if there's a change in personnel, whatever, we will be able to track the entire project. It also factors in what's eligible for reimbursement, what's not eligible. So it's a pretty comprehensive document, which then also informs a document called the 046, which is how you would apply for payment with the state. So this particular spreadsheet document actually fills out the 046 automatically. So every time you file an 046, it's just a matter of seeing where we are, with what's been approved and where we stand, and then that document gets filed by the state. So we'll work with the Board of Ed on that. They know, everybody knows what their role is going to be and how we're going to manage it. There's going to be some duplication, and we want that, especially with the records. So I'll have a copy of the records, and I believe Martha, the Board of Ed will have a copy, and I'm not sure if Michelle will also have a copy. So there'll be plenty of ways where we can track it and make sure that we're staying on top of it, because that can get out of hand. If you're not focused on it, and if you can very easily lose track of what's going on, and that then impacts your reimbursement. So we want to make sure that this is tracked properly.
So Rusty, will this make it easier for invoices and documentation to present it to the Permanent Project Building Committee so that when it comes before them for approval for invoices, they will see the actual invoice, where it's going to, what was the original budget, so on and so forth?
Line item by line item.
Any change orders, it's all delineated on that?
So this one document, the workbook, Excel workbook that I use because it's kind of fairly easy. Actually, this budget document that you all received,
Yep.
it fills this information in here. So there's a lot of other documents that are actually transferring the data. As soon as an invoice comes in, it gets entered into that particular category. And once it's in that category, it automatically defines what's eligible, what's not eligible. And then that goes into this document, and this information then goes to the 046 document. And we keep a file in each one of these categories.
Okay. My other question before we move off of the high school, I noticed on your report here, item 9 is that the building committee has requested information on the generators at the high school. And I have heard that the cost is quite extensive on the generators. Are those generators, are you planning that it's a shelter, the school is a shelter place, or it's just generators that are needed for certain equipment?
So we plan on it being a whole building generator. The school is not defined as a shelter.
Okay, good. I didn't want it to be because NBI, this school is a shelter, and I don't think we need 2 of them on the same campus.
When you do a shelter, there are a lot more criteria that come into play.
Okay.
So we would have to reinforce all our structure. It really lifts the structural requirements of the building to a different level, and it becomes very expensive. So that's never been part of the package.
Okay.
The generator that we called for was a full building generator, but at last night's meeting, we had further discussion about it, because we're up at 1,250 kW to 1,500 kW for the whole building generator. We're looking at that more carefully. We're looking at maybe to see what we would be able to accommodate with the 750 kW generator. When you do go to gas, the requirements on the gas are a little more stringent with its efficiency. And so the initial information I'm getting is that the cost is a 2-to-1. So if the diesel is 500,000, the gas would be about $1 million. So we're evaluating all of that. The committee asked us to look into it. We will do that. And Gilbane is pricing both. So we
Okay.
make an informed decision.
All right.
At next week's meeting, we're going to go through a lot of the finishes and do a presentation to the committee on all the, everything that's in the high school. We've been getting a lot of feedback from them as well. Any other questions on high school?
Rusty, what would be the cost to make it a shelter? How much more percentage would it be to do that?
We have to go back and look at all the structural implications when we do a shelter. And then what would happen is we have to look at, do we have adequate number of showers? Do we have, obviously the food service equipment is ordinarily going to be on a generator anyway. So I think much of it's similar, but it's the structural impact and then some of the other, in terms of how you use it as a shelter. The number of showers, for instance, we have in a high school of this size, it has been, nobody uses showers in schools anymore. So we, decreased the number. I think we've got 3 male, 3 female, and then we've got some adult showers. We may need a lot more than that if we do make it a town shelter. So we have to evaluate that, but the structural is the piece that's a lot more, needs a lot more consideration. And then there are some mechanical and electrical requirements as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the intermediate school. We did do an estimate. We looked at the building, we looked at the roofs. There's just a lot of different things that need to be addressed on that roof. For instance, backup drains. So our estimates are very conservative, but we did identify a lot of items that we think need to be addressed. For instance, backup roof drains is a code required items now. So those are not addressed on the building. One of the challenges is just having existing documentation on the roof itself. And that's why I suggested a couple of things on here. 2 reasons. To do a drone flyover, they're able to give us such accurate information, including slopes, because we have just many different slopes on the roof itself. Some pictures are over a half-inch thick, some are close to flat, but there's a lot of different problems that are caused by all the different levels on this roof. There's also, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, is the fact that about 5 feet off the edge of the roof, the water flows towards the exterior. So that's one of the main reasons why you're getting all this moisture into the building. The water is flowing down the face of the building itself. And so when we did this evaluation, we broke it out by what would it cost just to do the masonry improvements. That masonry improvements, we still need to do the whole parapet to address the water going over the front of the building and onto the masonry. And then we looked at just what would happen if we did a brand new roof. I haven't heard any reports about any issues with the roof in terms of holding up and doing this summer versus next summer. But what we did find, at least from our review of the documents we've had, is that most of the decking is flat. So to accomplish, I've showed a couple of details here to create a new profile on the edge of the roof. The difference in elevation is about 8 inches. So the profile of that that eave will be just about 8 inches bigger if we went that way. And then with that approach, all the water would pitch back towards the roof, not towards the masonry and the exterior facade. And then we would have the appropriate drains and backup drains on that roof to basically accomplish what should be happening, which is, if there's any rain event, the water's not coming off the roof, it's staying on the roof, going down the drain, and if the drain gets hotter, there's a backup drain to it as well. But it does mean that you're redoing that entire roof. The second item on there was for a thermal scan to give us some indication if there's any moisture that's got into the installation or into the under the membrane itself. So those two would give us a little bit more information. But ultimately, what we're suggesting is to do a permanent fix. We need to do both of those items at the same time. And
holding off a year would not make a difference?
I don't believe so, and in talking to John Florio, there's no issues that would prevent us from waiting for that. I don't think you have even if we were to do whatever we need to try to get this out to bid, at this date, your bids would be outrageous, because people have been bidding roof projects back in February. That's when you want to get out there. I think the appropriate way to do it is to take the time, do the necessary tests, do some cores, make sure that our assumptions on some of the decking and the planning of the structure is accurate. Do some of these flyovers and thermal images, and then develop a set of documents through the fall, so that you go out to bid maybe December, and the first one's out, or two open bids, so that the roofers are looking at your project first and getting the best prices at that time.
It's quite a hefty price tag.
So, Rusty,
I've been very conservative, to be fair. I've been conservative because it's something, I don't want to, for instance, we even look at what happens with, in some cases, we'll need gutters and downspouts, and we want to connect those downspouts to the storm system. We don't want it to just flow across the pavement. Because if it flows across the pavement in the winter or freeze, it becomes a hazard. So those types of things have been anticipated. We anticipated potential work on the interior of the building, depending on, putting in new gutters or new drains. You're going to have some impact on the interior of the building.
I mean, even the masonry price tag here is much higher than what we originally had anticipated when we did preliminary. This is quite extensive on here.
And on the masonry repairs, I actually went to 2 different masons and had them quote me on what these would be. So, because I was trying to make sure that the numbers were fairly, and these are significant numbers. But that also includes some parapet work and some roofing work as well.
Okay.
Rusty, is this a design flaw, a workmanship flaw, or just a result of this particular design on the roof?
Yeah, so one of the things we have been able to determine is the detail that we have is not the detail that's not how it's built. So that has some impact on it. It would require more investigation in terms of why it was done this way.
Thanks.
Mayor, can I say something, please?
We got,
Because I gotta go, I got other things to do.
we got a time when you can get up and talk.
Before, we used to sign in, they used to let you talk before the meeting. I don't know how you guys do it. Yeah, and I'll get the town manager, but I don't like him, I'll see it on TV.
Well, actually, we have to wait until the citizen statements and petitions. You're going to have to wait.
I just want to thank you for what you did for me, okay?
Okay, you're welcome.
I don't want your job, and I'm very busy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Rusty, are you all set?
Yes.
I don't think there's any more questions? No. Okay, thank you.
So, do you want to do any of the scans or any of that work with the law?
For my personal opinion, for those two prices on here, and considering the total cost of the job, I think the scans are very well worth it. Since we don't, and I don't know why we don't have as-built things on file. This building is not that old, and I don't know where those things would have went to that we don't have them to back this up. So I would like to make a motion that we allow QA&M to conduct a preliminary evaluation of the roof and do a roof survey and a thermal scan for NBIS.
Second.
Got that, Michelle? Okay.
The motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampiano. Any further discussion on this? Okay, can I have a vote? Michelle, please.
Roll or
No, I think
roll
it's...
call
No, I don't
vote?
think so, no. I don't
All
think
in
we need-
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Thanks.
Thanks, Rusty.
Be the keeper. Okay, next we have North Bradford High School requested to modify bid review process regarding RFPs.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I think Rusty touched upon it, and it will be picked up later in the agenda under item 13F, which is a discussion that came out of the Permanent Project Building Committee to try and streamline the process. Again, for the, say, let's take, for example, the hazmat and the deep RFPs that Rusty was talking about. Because of the size of those contracts, it's best to bid those out, that authorization can be given to the Permanent Project Building Committee. I have a memo in there addressing that as item 13. So I think he's pretty much covered that at this point, and we can take the rest of it up under item 13F.
Okay. Yeah, the intermediate school, that was done already, right, Rusty?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go to Town Manager's Report. First, I
Yes,
have update on COVID-19 testing and vaccine.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, I won't go through the entire report, but I will just point out that we have made some progress, little progress, but again, these are old numbers as of 3/25. We went from a ranking of 8 to 12. I'm not sure if we're still trending in that positive direction that I hope we are. But the good news is on the second to last page, and with respect to the vaccinations, which I'm happy to report that for ages 65 and above, that we have achieved nearly 100% in that category, and overall total population vaccination of 42.3%. So again, those are old numbers from 3/25, and we hope that Thursday's numbers when we meet will be even more positive and trending in the right direction. So I'll continue to report out, but happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Next, we have discussion on temporary position for town clerk's office.
Yes, so you have a memo in your packet. The clerk is seeking a waiver, or not a waiver, but a lifting of the hiring freeze for the purposes of a part-time assistant town clerk. So the memo is there with a prepared motion and a backup memo from the town clerk. She is also here in attendance should you have any questions, but this is an item that requires the town council's action to lift the freeze.
So Lisa, how long would you expect this person to be part-time?
I have an assistant town clerk position that's been vacant for about a year and a half. The person went out sick, and we haven't replaced her. So right now it's in the budget because that's the shared position with the assessor's office.
Yep.
And there may be a shift in the hours, so I can't hire the permanent person yet. So I'm asking for some temporary help for the backlog of work in the
okay.
office and the upcoming budget referendum, because we're hearing that there may be another executive order regarding absentee ballots to allow the COVID reason for absentee ballots. So the person I had in mind worked for me during the election last year, and the pioneering already knows the election part of it, so she could be very helpful.
So are you anticipating this position through June 30th?
Yes.
Or beyond?
It's already funded in my budget.
Okay.
It's there. It hasn't been used at all this year. The full part-time account is there because it's been vacant.
Okay. And so there's money up through June 30th, but
Yeah.
if you need the person beyond June 30th, we would have
I'm hoping
to.
to get the permanent one.
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping to go out and hire the permanent one, but in the
Interim,
I need
okay.
some help because we're kind of backlogged for a year and a half.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that the North Brantford Town Council hereby lifts the hiring freeze to allow the town clerk's office to hire a temporary worker in a part-time capacity not to exceed 19 hours a week.
Second.
Okay. Motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampiano. Any further discussion? May I have a vote, please, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay. Next is community events and presentations. Nothing. Next, we have citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence.
I got some things to go through. I'll stand over here and take the notes on what. It is not for, oh, the on and off, the on position, right? Testimony. There you go, you have to hit it, huh? I should have been with you guys last Tuesday night. Minor conflicts. The town website had a very light agenda on it. Didn't include anything what you talked about. So I said, oh, no problem. I'll go on Kentucky TV. They never were able to come up. Although it's a minor issue, there was major stuff discussed last week. Somehow we got to keep up with little things before they become big things. A missing agenda is minor, but information was missed. Luckily, some of the people, Mr. Pizzuto and his brother were there to give you information you should have had. And I'm going to start by prefacing this. Glad Vinny's back. I think it's time for Vinny to start his commissioner school again. Too many commissions have grown legs, hearts, and they want to do their own thing. Recycling committee is just one of them. Inland wetlands, you get more information when somebody's doing an application on how to grow fruit trees in an elephant forest. That's not what the customer that's applying for an application wants. Planning and zoning, they come up with their own footage measurements. Coincides with one of their members when they're trying to push something through. This has got to stop. When you have two agendas on these commissions that serve us, there's the paper one that I always go by. That's why I know 13 is usually when I can open my big mouth. It should have this. That it's on. Okay. I'll just forget this. 13 is when I get to speak. I try to put my facts together, but again, these commissions, the Recycling Commission, they went way above. They did your job. They did your job for you. They went out and I guess, and you'll have to correct me because I didn't get to see the whole thing because it was blinded and I wasn't here. They went out and they approached their own source of trash. Never asked these two gentlemen, did they? Did they ask for your input, the recycling committee?
Yeah, they had some phone conversation.
All right, but again, I think we've got to reel in these commissions. You people are the controlling body. We elected you. They get appointed. And I just know that Vinny, I think we had to do this a couple years ago, right? Now you're back, so we can get the train back on the track. They have to understand their ethics and their boundaries. And I think a lot of time they're overstepping it. And due to this COVID thing, I'm home watching live streaming TV. And I'm seeing stuff that's slipping through the cracks that shouldn't be. And it's embarrassing to say, hey, is this how our town's really going to operate? So the two things I want to talk about tonight are items 13B and 13E. 13B is going to be about, I believe, the Potato Fest. I've given this a lot of thought. I'm 73 years old with some conditions. I've been inoculated, so big deal. Under that tent at the Potato Fest, if you look at the average age of the average volunteer, I'm sure it's 50 plus. And there's no such thing as a 4-hour shift at the Potato Fest. I've been with the Potato Fest since day one, when we had the tractors in the diamond, and Willie's father had brought a pickup full of vegetables, and we borrowed a tent from Bishop's Orchard. And it's grown from that. So I've got skin in the game. That's a new phrase I like to use. And it, you know, my skin's older now, and I'm more susceptible to disease. I'm concerned that the very asset we have very little of every year at the Potato Fest is going to be the very one that's in most danger. And that's called volunteers. For some reason, we can get all sorts of fancy rides, we can get fancy vendors, but we never get enough volunteers. But somehow we pull it off every year. Well, I think we need one more year in the holding cell. Let your volunteers not get into any exposure. I mean, so many things were brought up at the rec commission meeting about when a kid gets off a ride, according to whatever's going to be the plan at that time, they might have to sanitize the seat on a ride. Who's going to do that? Also, the state wants crowd control. So you're going to have to keep track of how many people. So you're going to build an iron wall around the Potato Fest grounds. But who's going to monitor the wall? Look what's happening in Mexico. It could happen in North Brantford. We could be throwing them over the fence. So again, there's so many ifs that we got to address. Is it time just to pull a plug one more year? And your big ticket items have agreed to extend the contract out. At what expense do we hold this event? At the expense of making someone sick? We don't have any idea how many people will show up. Now there's talk of charging a gate fee, something we've never done before. So I just think there's too many if, what's, how can we do this, whatever happens, and so forth. We don't have enough answers. And I don't think we're going to have them by the end of the month. So I know as much as it is a big deal and it draws our town together, I want to err on the side of caution. I've already had to do this last Christmas. We used to have the hay rides for the Christmas tree lighting. So popular, we have to run 2 trailers. But did I like discontinuing that? No, but I didn't want anyone sick. So I made the decision, I don't want to do this. Because if 99 people have fun, but one person gets COVID, what did I accomplish? A negative factor. So again, that's one thing. The other thing is the Bizzutos. They got skin in the game. I like that phrase. They live in town. They work in town. They pay taxes in town. They park their trucks in this town. They've been in business. They're not a 2-week-old company. They've been in business for many years. I moved into this town in 1978, I think, or 77. My house that I moved into, the guy said, hey, you got to get Bizzutos for your garbage. I've never had a problem since. They know how to get rid of the trash. They know how to work the trash. But they're local grown people. They've helped people out that there's been fires in their houses and they've donated a house for the people who live in it. You know, they have a lot of skin in the game. They're homegrown. And if you give them a chance and talk to them, you'll come up with some good answers. They can work through any problem with you, but you've got to address it. You can't let your recycling committee make your big decisions for you. Again, overstepping their bounds. Time for Vinnie's Ding Dong School again. So I'd like to see more interest put into keeping these people in town because they give back to this town. They donate to this town. They care about this town. Always to whoever their other company you're looking at, they're going to treat us like Old Brook Steel or another commercial contractor. They're not going to have any allegiance to us because they don't live here. They got nothing going on here. They're not going to care. These guys care. They've proven it over and over and over again. You can go to them with a question, they'll give you an answer. If you need a tote, they'll get you a tote. Whatever you need, they'll do. So again, I think this has really got to be rethought. But again, I'm kind of upset with the way the commissions have gone to the dark side. They're doing too much on their own. And then when, especially they hide under the guise of the Zoom meeting. The planning and zoning is a perfect example. I said to, that farm thing they were trying to work through. I said to the chairman, well, this is for farmers. You're not contacting the farmers. He said, well, they know how to read the paper. I said, well, they should be involved. You should be. So we went as non-chair members of that commission. And we got our farmers. We got Keith Bishop. We got the lady from the state involved. We did the town's work because they wouldn't. And then it dawned on them, this is not a good thing, and they pulled the plug. They'll probably try to come back with it. But again, this is not how a commission should operate. They're supposed to be user-friendly. We want this town to grow. And when these commissions try to dig the dirt out on you instead of trying to help you, and they just bring way too much information. When the gentleman on the Wetlands Commission says, he starts a statement by, I'm a tree hugger. You think he's going to want trees taken down on somebody's property that's got an application? No, and he states it right there out in front of you. I can show you the videotape. I'm not lying, I've watched this. So that's got to be checked. We've got to move forward, and we've got to do a better job taking care of our contractors in town. And better job with the agenda too, because I could have been here last week. Hitting you hard then. We got a week off, what can I say? Thank you.
Cliff, just to clarify, last week's meeting was just a budget workshop. There was no public input on that meeting.
But there was. If you go to the videotape.
No, that was an agenda item.
I'm sorry.
That was an agenda item on there, and it had nothing to do with the actual trash contract. It had something to do with the Mira contract.
Yeah, but I didn't even have that agenda. And Michael, we talked, right? Because I said, Mike T is making me aware that there's something more going on. We talked. And I said, well, no, Mike, I got the town agenda. It's right here. It just says budget. I said, I wasn't going to bother you for that. And then, I guess, during that, it turned into a discussion with them, right?
Well, that wasn't there was a revised agenda, and that item was added on Monday.
And then there was a discussion.
About the Mira contract.
Yeah.
But not the trash, not the solid waste contract.
Well, but there was a discussion with those gentlemen in the room on how they operate and how they could do what they couldn't do, right?
Yes, it was in regards to the Mira contract.
Yes, but that would be nice information for a citizen that's concerned, like I am. If I had been able, I couldn't see it anywhere. I mean, even the Tosaka TV could not come up on mine. I would have been happy with just that. The only resolve I had was a day later on YouTube, they were able to show it. So that's when I had to try to get my information there. But it's just the idea that they're little things. But again, I won't come here and bother you during budget season because I don't have a budget to bother you. I want things that are starting to really, you kind of want them to go away, but they're not. Commission things. And roads, that was your daughter and your son-in-law's application.
I know exactly what you were talking about.
So, I'm not lying. These facts are facts. When a commissioner says, I'm a tree hugger, that gavel should look down, his vote should not count, and that should not happen. Another time, one of the members told the gentleman applying for a septic permit, Well, that failed. You gotta go one step higher. That gentleman was meeting the state regulations, but because one of the officials on the commission had the system fail, he felt that that gentleman's system was gonna fail also. So what do? They coerce these people. This gentleman had to now apply for the next level permit. He wasn't coming here that night for that, but he had to, because he was coerced, because one of the gentlemen said, oh, mine failed. You can't do that. That's gotta stop. We want people to come to this town. The gentleman might have been a businessman that could afford that. A homeowner can't. So this has gotta stop. And like I say, it's become more relevant. Abuse of powers during this Zoom meetings and stuff in the public. So, I mean, I think I wouldn't be here if I didn't know my facts, and I backed them up by watching the video. And if I'm wrong, somebody please tell me, and I'll write a letter to apologize. But it's a problem, and it's got to stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Cliff. I'm going to go to about 8:30, and then I'll stop the meeting, the council meeting. And then we'll go to, just let me finish what I got here. All right, I have a couple, what I'm going to do is I have a couple more things here that I want to bring up. And we'll do this, and then we'll go into the Board of Ed. I noticed quite a few people here. So let me get this done. Next, we have resignations and appointments, and there's none. Okay, all right, let's do unfinished business, discussion and action. I'm going to wait till about 8:30, and then we can go into the Board of Ed. Resolution regarding referral of North Brantford Police Department facility to Permanent Project Building Committee.
Mr. Mayor, we've asked to postpone that till next meeting because we have one more meeting of the PD Facility Committee.
Okay.
So just keep it as an unfinished item.
Okay, we'll put that off. That's good. Okay, thank you, Marie. Next, we have review and proposed agreement from Jeff Dionorfio on legal services for Permanent Project Building Committee.
I thought at the last meeting that there was going to be
I have
a motion for us or something.
Gotta go hear the mic here.
For the council, I did have a conversation with Attorney Dionorfio. He did send me an email. The areas, it's difficult to put together a proposed budget in the ordinary sense like you might do for litigation because there's a lot of variables that come into being. But Attorney Dionorfio outlined the following for me. For a construction manager at risk on a public school building, his contract drafting process is as follows. Review RFQs and SOQs, review RFPs and CM proposal, review the architect's contract, draft the A133 2019, the A201 2017, and discuss and negotiate the contract with the construction manager and the client. The amount of time required depends upon how much negotiation there is with the construction manager on the documents. His best estimate, based on his past experience, is 35 to 40 hours, assuming moderate discussions. If there's significant pushback, then obviously that adds time, and if it also depends on how much conversation there needs to be with the town. So his best guesstimate, based upon his past experience, is about 40 hours. What we're talking about is $200 an hour. So that's about where you would be. So I believe I guesstimated last time about $50,000 to $75,000, depending upon where the process takes us. His estimate is below that, so I would still estimate about $50,000 for attorney's fees. But what I would suggest is, because I do believe time is of the essence, that we advance this, because there's work being done without a contract in place, and that could end up affecting your reimbursements from the state, that we advance this with Attorney Dionorfio, and that I would work with him to help maintain the attorney's fees at or below that $50,000 threshold, and we would provide you with updates as the work advances, so that you can see the fees that are being incurred, and we can set a cap at a certain point, if you would like, where we would have to come back and get approval to go advance beyond whatever the cap is. And since my estimate was $50,000, I would recommend that you set a cap of $40,000. So we go below my estimate. It's the top end of his estimate, but it allows us to advance this project as expeditiously as possible, particularly where we stand under the circumstances.
Okay, so I noticed in his letter that he's saying construction law services for the NBHS project, but I think the council was looking at him doing any of our projects. So it could include the police department, it could include other things, not just the high school project.
Basically, the way you should look at it, when we first reached out to Attorney Dionorfio, it was specifically for his expertise with high school construction projects and reimbursements from the state. The retainer is a retainer to utilize his services at an hourly rate of $200 an hour. So we could modify that retainer where it's a general retention of his services, and that he would bill the town at the rate of $200 an hour for any work that he does on any project. But the retainer that he provided was specific to the high school because that was what the initial assignment was.
Okay. All right, so there was no proposed motion in our packet, so I would like to make a motion to retain the services of Attorney Jeff Dionorfio for the purposes of reviewing any construction contracts related to any construction projects at a cost not to exceed $40,000.
At an hourly rate of $200 an hour.
At an hourly rate of $200, and this is also subject to extension down the road if we meet that $40,000.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Any further discussion?
I just had one question. Vin, you said $200 an hour, and the letter says $225 an hour.
I will call, if he quoted 225, I would ask what the council's pleasure is. I thought I spoke to him about $200 an hour because I didn't want to go too much above what we were charging the town, which was $150 an hour. I don't think it's going to make a meaningful difference at the end of the day, the $25 an hour. But if you would approve him at the $225, I'm sure he'd be grateful, since I know his normal hourly rate is substantially more than that.
Okay, so his letter is March 8th. Did you speak to him after? This is the letter that we have in our packet with the 225. So I'm not sure if you spoke to him after that, before that, but I don't have a problem amending my motion to read 225 an hour. Because it's still the $40,000 cap.
Okay.
So I'll amend the motion to 225 an hour.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you get that?
I did, thank you.
Can we have a vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay, we're a little past 8 o'clock. I think let's do the Board of Ed. Mike, you want to do the?
Yeah, the council.
Yeah, well, I think. Is that all right with you guys?
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to pause the town council meeting and move over to the budget hearing, the special town council meeting of the town council for budget presentation.
Second.
Okay. Councilor Angeloni, Michelle, and Deputy Mayor Zampano, any more discussion, any further discussion on this? Can I have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Okay.
Good evening. Mike Wallace, Town Manager, and I'm going to kick us off tonight for the budget process. And Anthony, you want to go to the first slide there? We'll start to outline, and I'll try not to take too long, but just try to hit the highlights. It's a process, and we have try to set priorities, obviously. Look at
Can they shut off some of the lights, just so you can see it better?
Mike, excuse me. Can I have somebody do the lights, please?
Can part of the lights be shut
Yeah.
off in here, just so that's clearer to see for the people at home?
Yeah.
Even better.
Thank you, John.
Now Mike can't see.
Yeah, so I'll be off the screen. We'll improvise. Yeah, so it's a process, and obviously we go through proposals, we hold workshops, and culminates in a public hearing. And then after this meeting, we obviously have to do adjustments, and those come before holding the vote in May. So, state issues, this is sort of a perennial kind of thing, uncertainty about state revenue. I have another slide further on in the presentation that shows the history there, but we rely quite a bit on state revenue. So, when they make changes, it affects us, and then of course they can add on top of that unfunded mandates that most recently, I think the teacher's pension argument's been around for a while. The MS4 is a more recent type of mandate. I think they're quite honestly better in terms of hearing from municipalities about the burden of unfunded mandates, and I think that has been curtailed to some degree, but it's still, it comes right directly to us. So what we are faced with is maintaining town services and the infrastructure when costs are escalating, and last year we were talking, COVID and, what difficult time we were looking at because of so many unknowns. And so I think that, the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic is going to play through for maybe a cycle or two in the budget. We just have to, wait and see. So there are pressures from departments to increase staffing and meet resident service demands, and mandates by the state as those come down. So it's a balancing act, and we do the best we can. Here's the budget I'm referring to. I put this slide about the negative trend from state funding. It's 14-15 was 9 million, we're down to 7.3. So it's significant dollars. Those are huge impacts when we look at trying to fund services and maintain services. So pretty big gap there. Our budget highlights total budget expenditures proposed to be 4.3. General government operations is 8.3. And I'm going to read from my notes here, just to kind of break down that piece there for municipal side at 8.3. And I think I can do this. The driver behind the general government operations, as mentioned earlier, is our upcoming contract for
municipal solid waste and recycling. So that is the bulk of it at $441,000. We have wages and benefits driving it at $190,000. We have some increases in departments in terms of public works, about 100, police about 100, and then we also have 3 union contract negotiations coming up underway, so that'll have an impact as well. So that's sort of what is behind the general government operations and what's driving that 8.3%. Board of Ed, they've done theirs, and debt services is one of the, it's flat. So as you can see there, again, we're also embarking, as you all know, or many of you know, that we've got lots of building projects coming down the pipeline. So right now, the debt service is flat. So just a breakdown, increase and decrease of general government, as I mentioned, 8.3, debt service flat, education 2.14. You'll hear from Scott Shoemaker, superintendent, about their presentation. Capital improvements, 22%. We have put in, I think, going back a few years, the decision to put almost $1 million in for capital improvements, I think, has served us well going forward in terms of trying to make catching up with projects, that we weren't doing sort of delayed capital improvements plan. So we've got a plan going forward that addresses that. I think it's working effectively. So revenue grand list. This is a year of reval. So it kind of skews things up. I think last year I was here reporting, in the last couple of years, a very anemic growth at 1% or just about 1%, a little over 1%, but right around 1%. And this year with the grand list increase, it kind of skews things. It shows a big increase, which equates to almost $1.7 million in terms of tax dollar increase. So it's a necessary thing that we have to do in terms of reval. So I think you sort of have to consider that as not your normal year. Financing the budget and use of fund balance. You can see the history there. There have been times where we've used quite a bit, 18 and 19 at 750. I think that's the high watermark, so to speak, and looking to do 350 this year. So I'll talk about fund balance a little bit later near the end of the presentation, but right now there is additional wiggle room in the fund balance what's being proposed right now, $350,000. So other revenues, interest income expected to improve slightly. Slight increase, but not, again, no crystal ball. It may not pan out. Revenue budget, permit revenue expected to stay flat as well. Real estate, conveyance staying flat across the board. And again, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't anticipate any great increases in terms of those revenue sources. General government expenditures, percentage of the budget, obviously, most of you can determine the personnel costs are going to be the largest component at just under 40% for us. Another driver, contractual services at 18%, and benefits and insurance at 15%. Debt service covers 16%, but as I said, it's flat this year, which is a good thing, and then it's capital improvement plan at 6% of the budget. So that's how it breaks down for us. So proposed higher levels of funding for the capital improvements. We're looking at $2.1 million. Of that, as I said before, 1.3, almost 1 mil is in there from budgeted funds to address those issues. So kind of notable requests, fire equipment reserve, public equipment reserve, public works, road improvements, and small repairs and equipment. And then, of course, more items there, but those are just sort of the highlights of capital improvement. So, at this point in time,
we're starting out at a budget that's 0.66 mils above, or 1.96 over the 2021 rate of 30.58. So this, if you were to do nothing, you would approve it, it'd be at 34.24. So this is just the starting point at this point as presented, with a starting point of 0.66 mil increase over last. 1 mil equates to $1,309,143. So that's the value of 1 mil. And if we're looking to get to zero, like you know that number, the proposed 66 mil increase is 864,000 at the current collection rate. I don't expect that's going to move, although it could. We are projecting that that's going to stay level at that rate of 98.5 and keep our fingers crossed. So that's it. If you're looking, if the council looks to try and get to reducing that 0.66, it's 864,000. And one way you can do it through capital. Debt service not going to happen, and operating budget, and fund balance allocation. As I said, fund balance allocation is at 350. We have used as high as 750 in the past. Our good point to make is that our financials are in sound financial footing, with a very healthy fund balance, so that bodes well for the town, and it gives the council the added flexibility to decide if that's, maybe they think 350 is too high. That's their final decision, not mine, and they could decide that that's too high, they want to lower it, where they could increase it to try and lower the mill rate, but that's a factor. So that is my presentation, and now I will hand off to the Board of Education Superintendent Scott Shoemaker. I know he's here somewhere, hiding in the dark.
No worries.
Is that cutting out?
I think if you try not to hit the button.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be back again. We presented last week to the Town Council. You received packets with our budget information. I'm going to go through this quickly this evening. I promised Fran Marola that I would move accordingly. This will be on our website. We will put this on the banner page so that anyone who is not able to be here this evening will have access to it. I'm not going to obviously read through our vision and mission, but just speak to the goal of educating the whole child in pre-K, our 3 and 4-year-olds, all the way through our 18 to 21-year-old program, focusing on the whole child and every child in the district, which currently is over 1,700 students. We believe it's a shared responsibility. We've seen some great cooperation with this board with some of the projects that we're undertaking, obviously the high school being a huge undertaking and a lion's share of time over the next 36 months. So we greatly appreciate that, and we're really proud of the progress we're making today. Obviously, as I stated in the meeting last week, the challenges of overcoming the pandemic and being able to open 5 days a week from day one this past September was a Herculean effort by many people involved. I am going to, when we get to our capital, have John Florio come up and speak in greater detail about what went into getting ready for this past year. At the last meeting, I did not have John here, and I was just going based on my memory, but obviously there was so much more that went into it, so I just want to have him the opportunity to share some of those highlights for you. We'll continue with our professional training for learning in all best practices and instructional resources for our students. We continue to examine our curriculum each and every year through the curriculum cycle. We're constantly looking to focus on our STEM activities. Those are going to continue to be for us as we move future. That being said, class sizes will always be our highest priority. We average about 18 to 21 per class, depending upon the level and the makeup of that class. We'll continue to expand on our social emotional curriculum, knowing that we just came off 12 months of the pandemic with isolation and a lot of mental health issues with our students, and the challenges to our staff. We're really going to spend a great deal of time over the next several months, several years, making sure that we're not missing anything with our mental health team so that children are heard, we understand some of their challenges, and we're able to access resources for them. We're going to continue to, as I mentioned, expand our STEM opportunities all the way down from pre-K through 12, looking at Project Lead the Way, the advanced engineering coursework, which will be integrated for all students throughout. And we're adding a high school course this next year, which is really exciting, in biomedical engineering, which will really give many of our students a leg up on pursuing that in their future. Explore manufacturing, we spoke to that. We're going to continue to look to partner and look at opportunities and fundraising and things that, when I say fundraising, grants and things with the state and federal government. Core instructional program, I'm not going to spend much time on that. With Common Core and what we're charged with, we'll continue to be ahead of the curve and make sure that we're doing it in a safe manner with COVID and all of the things that we've been dealing with each day. Okay, so getting down to the proposed budget, recognizing the pandemic and the new high school building project, which I spoke to, we really, we feel we're very efficient and effective with coming in with a flat budget, our status quo budget at 1.58%. That means no new positions. If we were to stay the same and just carry forward, obviously recognizing our contractual obligations, we would be at 1.58. We had several positions that were funded by our school improvement grant at NBIS that would equate to about $1.5 million that ran out or will run out at the end of this year. So we are looking to transfer 3 of the positions to the general fund to maintain the current level of curriculum instruction. Those 3 include an instructional coach, which is a certified teaching position, an instructional paraprofessional, and an inclusion paraprofessional. We are also looking to add 1 life skills teacher in our elementary school, our K2 building, and that's necessary due to the increased program. That offsets a great deal of cost to the town when we're able to provide programs for our special needs students and not outsource them or outplace them, which can be astronomical in cost. We are also looking to recognize our Dean of Students with a $2,000 stipend in each building, so that'd be 4 buildings times $2,000, obviously $8,000 for the work they do, and I explained that at the last meeting what they were responsible for. The total of these items is $181,522. That increases the status quo budget from 1.58 to 2.14. Okay. What we looked at, we discussed the impact of the pandemic. I keep saying that word pandemic, but it really was quite a challenge over the past several months. We prioritized our requests to maintain continued support in programs that were currently in place. We did not want to go backwards. We did an in-depth review of all salaries, budgets that included actual employees and positions, all benefits, life, health, all of those things were reviewed and allocations were adjusted to reflect 21-22. Current enrollment trends are, and I know I'm going to your presentation, Ms. Vaughn, but I'm going to hand it over to your section. But our enrollment remains consistent. At the last meeting last week, it was interesting. I reported that we had 99 kindergarten registrations last Tuesday. Ms. Parker, as of today, we have 115. So in the last week, we registered 16 new students to our kindergarten program. That's fantastic. That's exciting, and you know, those youngsters are our future, and we're really happy to have that number be so hard right now going into the summer months. In the summer, we usually register another 15 to 20 students. People who are thinking about holding children. When you look at the pandemic last year, many parents said, you know what, this is a gap year to hold my child if they were 4 turning 5, or a young 5, I'll hold them for a year and then I'll move them into kindergarten next year. So we're thinking that we're seeing some of that residual effect for parents who took advantage of holding their child home for another year. That being said, the enrollment is steady.
Check, 1, 2, check, check.
Yes. No. Anthony. Okay, so the enrollment will remain consistent and moving along. We know that all of the numbers that were presented for the building project show a little fluctuation over the pre-K through 18 through 21 program over 12 plus grade levels. So that being said, I'm going to ask Ms. Vaughn to come up and just speak dollars and cents right now with what that means, and then I'll close again with John Florio. So that being said, Martha.
Okay, so when you look at the budget, we broke it down into various different groups, such as salary benefits. You'll see those listed here on the screen. I apologize that they are small. There are 2 areas that you can see significant increases in, and those are your learning programs and support programs. Your learning programs are your actional instructional subjects, such as math, science, ELA. And the reason the percentage increase there is over 20% is because this budget holds items for curriculum materials that will be needed for math, science, and reading. The support programs right underneath that is an increase of 22.5%, and those services are mostly related to professional services involving our special education students, such as things like nursing, outside nursing services that will come in for those students that require a private nurse under their IEP, which is an individual educational program. When we look at where the actual increase comes from, you could see the chart over to the right-hand side. Of course, the salary number is the largest increase because we are a service-oriented organization. You will notice a large decrease in the benefit. And the reason we were able to do that is because we took a very careful look at the amount of contributions that we anticipate on getting from our employees who participate in our health insurance. And through contract negotiations and crunching real numbers, we've determined that that amount that we have set aside currently for benefits in our budget can actually be reduced. So that is a nice difference that we're not used to seeing in that. The other areas you see outlined there are the dollar increases that we listed on the previous slide. Here, if you look it out in a pie chart, you'll see again that the salary is the biggest piece of the pie, followed by, and I have to look at my paper because I can't see that, benefits, transportation, tuition, buildings and grounds, and so forth. And then when you break it down by location, you can see each building. Jerome Harrison takes a little over 10%, as well as TVES. MBIS accounts for about 13.7%. The high school is 20%, and then there's a district category. And district are those services that extend beyond one building. So things such as transportation, pupil services, benefits, technology, and professional services. And this is very small. What this chart shows you is our expenditures by object. And under the State Department of Education, we have to account for things by object. So that's the 3-digit number you see listed all the way over to the left. And it also shows our current budget, our proposed budget, the change, and the percentage increase. So all of those items together listed down equal the 2.14% increase that we have proposed. And then this is the capital request, which I'm going to give back to Scott.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. If John Florio, if you could come forward, please. Sorry, John, I didn't tell you I was doing this, but are you wondering why I asked you here tonight? Okay, so at the last meeting last week, there were a few things that were on the capital list. We spoke specifically that we were looking to take the playground project off. We had a significant donation, and we also were able to take care, a lion's share of that. Thank you to Fran Marola and the town crew and their time and resources to help get that completed, and then this year's monies. So that being said, I just want John to speak specifically to, the first thing was the unit ventilators, where they were installed this summer, how many were installed, and the plan moving forward, specifically about electrical and what that looks like, and then getting the schools ready for our September opening, what that entailed, so there's a real strong understanding of what our crew did to make sure that these buildings were safe for occupancy. So John, we'll let you start.
Thank you. Totucket Valley unit ventilators, it came to the board, it came to the council back when we purchased the ventilators. We purchased 16 ventilators. The cost was given to you to purchase the 16 ventilators. Out of those 16, 6 were installed already and have been operating as heating only. The ventilators are heating, combination heating and air conditioning ventilators. The way Totucket Valley School, I don't know how many of you remember, Totucket Valley School was built as an all-electric school. It had electric heat in it. When the town figured the expenditures were way too much money in the 80s, they converted it to a hot water heating system. But because it was converted and because of the piping situation, you have to replace the ventilators in what I call quads. They bring the piping into one side, they go through all the classrooms and bring the piping out the other end. So all the piping has to be changed. You can't just change one ventilator in the middle of the piping system. So one pod was already done, okay, and those were running for heating. But in order to get them running for cooling, the condensers have to be placed outside. They have to be piped up. But we have to figure for electrical. There's the existing electrical and the existing ventilators is not enough to power up the condensers. So the price you see, 52, is the price for adding 3 transformers that we have to put new panels and then run the power to the unit ventilators. Well, we could do that job in quads, because that's how the job is piped. So that's how I'm going to be installing the remaining ventilators. The next series we're going to do is 8 rooms. So we're going to shut down that one quad of 8 rooms, repipe the whole thing. So as far as the electrical work goes, we could do it all in one job, or we could do it in sections, because we have window air conditioning units in all the classrooms right now. So we do have air conditioning, okay? And the unit ventilators that are in there now are running for heating. Some of them need to be replaced, so that's the section we'll do next. Hopefully we'll get all the rest of the 10 installed this summer. They'll be running for heating. Then as we go along, we'd like to do the pods, do the electrical work. We'll go to one section, we could do another section, we could do another section, we could do another section. Some of the areas already have power in the existing panels, so we could already start to wire those up. But some of the other sections of the building, they need the transformers. Okay, so we have 3 transformers that have to be purchased. So we could go ahead and purchase all 3 transformers now, or we could purchase the transformers as we do the quads. We could go either way. The $1,221 each you see that's for the air conditioning part. Okay, we have to bring the piping from the condenser into the unit. Then we have to charge it with, what you call Freon, not Freon anymore, but the oil to to work the cooling stage. So that's individual, each one. Again, we could do that in sections. Okay, so the next 8 we're gonna do is gonna need a transformer, it's gonna need electrical work, and is gonna need the air conditioning hookup. But the heating wise that'll all be taken care of by me, that'll all be installed. That piping, those fittings have already been purchased for the entire job, so there's no additional cost for the heating end, just the air conditioning and the electrical. So that's where we are right now. 16 units doesn't do the whole school. After we get those 16 units in, I'm sure the board will come to you with the remaining of the units that are going to have to be replaced. You know, that's a 1980 building, so they are starting to go. Well, that's how we're doing the unit ventilators at Poco Valley School. I outsourced a couple 2 or 3 electrical contractors who came in and looked at the job. We figured out all the same way. They kind of all agreed that that's the way we had to do it. I talked to the fire marshal as far as the location of the transformer. He was okay with that. So that's how we're going to go along with that project. The oil burners at Poco Valley, they both need to be replaced. We already purchased one. Matter of fact, one was delivered today. We're going to purchase another one, and we're going to install those at the end of the heating season. This way here we have 2 brand new oil burners that'll be set for Poco Valley. The Jerome Harrison chiller. Jerome Harrison chiller, you allocated the money for Jerome Harrison chiller in last year's budget. Not the chiller, cooling tower. Okay. Not every job is a capital improvement, and not every job needs to go out to bid. Okay, when you put something out to bid, you pay 3 times as much what it's worth. Okay, so the cooling tower at Jerome Harrison School, I think you budgeted $100,000 for it. What I do is I went out, I solicited 6 heating and cooling contractors, had them come in and take a look at the job and give me a quote. So we'll do a quote job on that. Right now, I'm under $50,000 already for replacement of that chiller, the replacement of that cooling tower. Okay? I'm going to save you money. But what I want you to do, and whatever money I save, I want you to reallocate that to a maintenance project that we can do. I have $100,000 worth of paving that needs to be done at Jerome Harrison and Poco Valley School. But whatever I save you on the cooling tower, I like to divert and do some other projects. But that's how, you don't have to put everything out to bid. That's just a replacement job. That's not a capital improvement. We're replacing exactly what's there. Everybody quoted out the exact same unit. It's still manufactured. It's about a dozen bolts, take it apart, lift one out, put one in, put it back together. If I had the manpower and the time, I'd do it myself. So we're gonna hire out. But that's the way we're gonna do it. Not gonna put it out to bid. You don't have to put everything out to bid. Put out the bid, you pay 2-3 times more than it's worth. You guys know we paid more for the pumping system at Jerome Harrison than we should have. It should have never went out to bid. So that's how we're going to do that. And like I said, that's cost effective. These contractors are all licensed, insured, bonded. They have to pull out permits, has to be inspected by the building official. As long as we get a guarantee and we get everything in writing, that's the way we're going to do the cooling tower. What I would ask the board, what I would ask the town council, I'd like you to speak with the board. I'd like you to raise our bid threshold, okay? Right now I'm at $7,500. I got 500,000 square feet of $1 million buildings to take care of $7,500. It doesn't get me anywhere. I can't replace that set of doors for that. You guys have to raise my threshold for the maintenance department. So I don't have to go out to bid for every single thing. I go out and get quotes. If I get 2, 3, 4, 6 quotes, and they're reasonable quotes or contractors we know how to do the job, okay, we don't have to put everything out to bid. But you have to raise my maintenance. You have to raise my maintenance threshold. Put it where you want, but $7,500 is not enough money. Otherwise, if I want to change one of those unit ventilators, it's over the threshold. I shouldn't have to come and say, well, we got to put that out to bid. So that I want you to consider. As far as COVID, When it first started, the entire staff got together, superintendent of schools requested, we clean and sanitize every square inch of every school. We cleaned every single thing, every item on a desk, every computer, every wall, floor, ceiling, everything in every single school. Top to bottom, cleaned and sanitized, everything. We changed our MERV 8 filters to MERV 13. That was a huge cost. Our unit ventilators and our air control systems, anything that we could exchange outside air, we're supposed to change it 4 times an hour. We switched to 8 times an hour. We put UV lighting in all of our ductwork. We have, inside the core of the building itself, hand sanitizers everywhere. Classrooms, entranceways, hallways, hand sanitizer, wipes, disinfectant. Every custodian was supplied with an electrostatic sprayer. They do continuous sanitation throughout the day. Sanitizers are brought in, continuous sanitation throughout the day. Anywhere where we had to put sneeze guards, the cafeteria, main offices, any teacher that requested a desk guard, we provided. We do constant cleaning and sanitizing all day long. If there's any suspected exposure, the room is emptied. Custodians put on PPV, go in and clean the entire room, sanitize the entire room before anybody comes back in. This is done throughout the night. When the evening shift cleans the rooms, they sanitize the entire building all over again at night. This has been a huge, huge undertaking. The teachers are helping. We give the teachers supplies. They help clean the classrooms when it's emptied. Huge undertaking. A lot has gone into this. We got to purchase special equipment. We purchased loads and loads of disinfectant, hand sanitizer, anything we could do. The superintendent requested, we keep schools open for the benefit of the children. We fully agreed to that. We fully agreed they needed to be in school. They needed to be with their friends. They needed to be taught by their teachers. We agreed, and the staff has stepped up and done a fantastic job. I thank you all very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
That was a little more detailed than last week. I think you'd agree. And he still didn't tell you how many air conditioners he put in at the high school or at Tutucket Valley, where he said he has to cut the window out, put the large one in, and then put plexiglass around it to do it. So that concludes our presentation. John, I thank you for taking the time to come out and explain that to the council. It's important that they hear that. And we'll entertain any questions. Ms. Vaughn is still here. I'm here, obviously, and my administrative team is here. So anything specific about any of the new initiatives, anything with curriculum towards our curriculum director, Tracy Wooten, we're here to answer. If not...
Ask John a question?
Sure.
John, what would you like that threshold to be?
John, the threshold of the 7,500, what would be a good number? $1 million?
I think if we matched Public Works, it would make sense.
What is that?
What's Public Works threshold? 15,000.
15?
There you go.
Thank you.
And that was not part of my presentation tonight, the threshold. So just for the record, but for years we've talked about this and it's always been a challenge with the $7,500. So this is not a new topic. And John has spoken about that for quite some time. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Scott.
So now you have to open up the public hearing. Well, so at this time, the public hearing is going to be open for anyone who would like to come up and speak. This is the one opportunity during our budget session where the public has an opportunity to speak on our budget. So at this time, public hearing is open. Sure, I'm not so sure how many people are going to be coming up and speaking, but it'll be there if anyone wants to.
Anybody have anything to say?
And you can close it.
Okay. Different than last year. Okay, you want to close it?
You can close it. You can.
Another question for tomorrow evening's budget presentation. It's at Town Hall, and it's at 7 o'clock.
We are probably going to cancel. We'll do that later in the meeting. We are going to be canceling both work sessions this week, budget workshops for Wednesday and Thursday that were on our schedule, and go to next Tuesday, the next scheduled one, the 13th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's close the public hearing.
It's closed at 8:58. It's closed at 8:58. You have to.
Okay, 8:58?
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, did you get that? It was closed at 8:58. Okay, we'll go into new business.
Well, let's just,
all right.
So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn from the special town council meeting, budget hearing, fiscal 21-22.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Any further discussion on this? No. Can we have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's all you got, Rose?
That's all that's on this agenda.
Why don't we take 5 minutes? You need 5 minutes? Yeah, why don't we take 5 minutes?
Okay.
Wait till you get the...
Very tired and sore.
How we doing, all right?
Except to stand for a minute.
Take it over. I actually like these things better than the
I mean, it's up to you.
Actually, they serve better for my back.
Yeah.
It's this section here.
13, right?
Yeah, all of this stuff. But we're gonna...
What?
Take a chair if you want. They want to take their chairs.
And we can, I mean, Bazzunos are here. We can, there's really, we're gonna table it.
Is it normal for nobody to show up to a public hearing? It's never happened before. This is like my reporter days when I used to cover these. Like every town has like a massive, at least a few.
Should go quick, right?
Yeah, there
Some
should.
people speak, they're all speaking. $2,000 for next, like, it's
Called out on
Never touched it. He made $21,000 in the course. He never played a hit on it. Never the same pump the guy called the pump company. And got the pump that I spent. He didn't even spend that, John. He said, John, I heard your order. This is the number. He never even spent anything. And then I told all their contract was 110.
I asked him.
So I didn't want the pump. I didn't want
Okay, hit the hammer, Bob.
The hammer, Bob.
Yeah.
Smack that wood, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to go into a new business discussion and action. First is discussion and action, drainage pipe tie-in to public works from the police facility.
And I asked to have this on the agenda, and I think Franny and the chief would be able to explain it.
Yeah, you want to come up, Fran?
Drainage pipe.
That means no.
We got a microphone.
Yeah, that's part of we have to realign the driveways for the police project. We have to have the driveways across from each other. So the drainage is coming across the street from the PD, and we have to pipe it from there down to the river.
Is that included in the cost estimate for the police department?
No, that and the new driveway is not.
Do we have a cost on that?
No. I have an estimate on the pipe, but not the construction of the driveway, which the engineer is working with numbers. We were supposed to have that for me last week, but we didn't get it yet. But the pipe approximately is about $68,000 just for the pipe.
How much, Fran? How much?
68.
68,000. That's not including doing.
Moving the driveway.
Right.
That's not a small driveway.
No. We're going to use the material from the police department to fill to make the driveway, and then it has to be paid.
Is there any way, only because we're going into budget season and finalizing, we have to finalize within 2 weeks, if this cost is not included in the 8 something that we've already approved for this project, I think we're going to need something, because we're going to have to allocate that somewhere along the line here.
Correct.
Can you have it by the
I
April?
should have had it, but I have to call the engineer, which I'll probably do tomorrow.
It would be great if we could have it for next Tuesday, the 13th, but at the latest, the 20th.
Yeah. It shouldn't be a problem. He was working on it last week. I talked to him. He said I usually get a cut sheet on it.
But also the cost of moving the driveway too. I mean, the whole thing.
That's it.
That he's doing that? Okay.
Driveway. The other drainage part that's on 22 is part of the police project. So we have to do work on 22. That's all included, and it dumps just on the other side of it.
Okay.
So from there out, and then we're also going to add in conduit across the road to the police station for, it was for security?
Future surveillance cameras.
Future surveillance stuff.
Yeah,
If I
if
need
you have
it.
the road open, you might as well do it.
So they can use it in the park there, plus my place, we can all tie it into the police station, one central.
Okay.
So while we're putting the pipe across the road, we put the conduit at the same time. There's a cost to that, but it's minimal compared to the rest of the project.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
Next is discussion on upcoming events, Memorial Day Parade and Poco Fest.
Yeah, so I think, the issue first is a Memorial Day and whether or not, this is a council decision on whether or not we go forward with that. I think Poco, that issue is still being addressed by the Festival Committee and Rec Department. So, council, your call. I don't have anything to add, because I just don't have that crystal ball, but, to do something like that safely in the next, month is, it's hard to say. It's just a comfort level and whether the council wants to go forward with that. But I'm asking for a decision because things have to get planned if we're going to go forward, and we have to get out advertisement and notification if it's not going to go forward. And so that's why it's on the council's agenda. I mean, can we do it safely? That's a great question, and I think we would make every effort to do that, but it's just whether or not the council feels that's a prudent measure to do or not. And I can't make that decision alone. I'm just looking for guidance from the council.
Can you talk to East Shore? I know you have weekly, at least weekly conversations, if not more, to find out like what would the guidelines have to be for it. If we made our decision by the April 20th meeting.
Well, I could even try to bring it back.
Or next
Tuesdays,
week at April 13th meeting or something, just to give us something to work with, some information as far as what the guidelines would be, what they're asking for, that type of thing.
Yeah, we need more information, I think.
Sure. Yeah, it's one of the, I'll get information. I'll pose that question on the Thursday morning. Reach out to the health director tomorrow and get him to work on that. Sure.
Now, the Memorial Day parade is different.
Well, no, that's what I was talking about, because I was talking about the parade, because Poco is, before Park and Rec is discussing that and bringing a recommendation to us at the end of for our May meeting. Okay. But the parade is the one because that's our decision. No, I was talking about the parade.
Okay. Anybody else? No. All right, let's do a review and approval of job description for town engineer.
Yeah, so actually tonight you have both prepared job description for the town engineer who is retiring this fiscal year, and also an opportunity or an option, if you will. Item D is on the specifications for an RFP 14 for engineering services, if the council felt that was the best way to serve the town. I think the best route to go, what I'm hoping for tonight, is the council's approval of updating the job description for the town engineer, which hasn't been touched since 1977. So I think is in order to at least update that job description, and I think it would make sense to go out into the market. It doesn't hurt us to go out in the market, advertise, and look and see what the candidate pool looks like, and if there's nothing there, then you could always fall back to a engineering services firm and approve the next item, approve the RFP and put that out as necessary, or when you feel you want to explore that opportunity.
Well, I have a question on that, Mike. For engineering services, have you contacted any consultant services and asked them what they provide, and try to measure it against what we have?
Yeah, we kind of like I did the same when we had the planner position open, just to explore what it would look like. And in this case, I've asked and was assisted by Fran in terms of reaching out to talk to firms. And we looked at, getting information exactly as you said, looking at whether or not. I think the key issue is the component of the sewer system, right, and the sewer collection system. And you could have a general engineering services, but the sewer operations is a whole nother level. And again, we have Veolia, which is great, but somebody has to manage and that's what the engineer does. They have oversight and manages the Veolia firm that handles that. So yeah, I think it can be done, and they're saying that it can be done. It's just going to be an added cost beyond the basic services of engineering, permit reviews and things of that nature.
Right, but I think it'd be important to know, at least generally, what services think an engineering service can provide, what's common for them to provide a municipality of our size, and what the cost is for that. So we have that for one side, and I'm sure there's things, well, you need this or you don't need this, I'm sure there's trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I would think that you'd want both so that you can make an educated decision, or we all can make an educated decision.
I think it would be nice to know other I'm not aware of other, I'm sure they exist, but I'm not aware of the other towns that forego a town engineer and use such consulting services solely. I'd be curious to know what they spend on that over the course of a year, and what run the traps on what issues might arise. The idea of having a town engineer who knows your town inside and out, I think seems really important. I'm just not aware of that route, so I'd be curious to see what other towns' experiences are.
Is there any downside to doing them concurrently, advertising for a town engineer and having an RFP out?
I don't see any downside to it, right? I don't at this point. I mean, and to Tara's point, I think the issue is I can find out the cost or CCM, and I think the issue is smaller sized towns typically go, and I think the threshold might be 10,000, so typically under 10,000 they'll have a firm come in and do that. Anything over that, I think that's the sort of the threshold break point. But I could be wrong, and I can go through and ask cost and CCM to give us some towns to talk to that use services, comparable size, and whether or not they have a sewer system or water system or not. But to your point, Rose, I don't see any downside to going parallel tracks.
And the job description that you gave us, have the updates already been made to this? Have you made updates, or are you asking us to make updates?
No. This is as presented. The draft has the updates, and so the first 3 pages are the revised job description, and the last page is the current or an old job description from '77. So it's brought into the new format that we have versus the 1-pager that you have.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what the difference was here. Okay.
And thank Fran also was an extra set of eyes to help us with that, and Kurt and I, myself and Fran, went through the review we looked at and compared about a half a dozen other towns looking at their job descriptions as well.
Well, I think there's 3 important pieces: the 2 different versions of an engineer, sourcing it or hiring, but that other piece is that Tara brought up is, physically talking to other towns and what's the upside, the downside, get their feel for people that have that, or towns that have that experience. I think that would be very valuable.
I did do that. I did talk to a couple towns, and there are several towns that do this. We're kind of unique because of the sewer systems. And I've talked to 2 firms. I got numbers, which I'm not going to give out. And, there's, you gotta, I personally think that putting the RFP out at the same time will get our answer on the numbers. Because no one's going to give you an exact number because of the sewer system.
No, but why I'm saying that, Fran, is, I think we'd also want to know how the other towns, what they're.
I did that. I mean, they're out there.
Right, but-
You make up what you want, so if you want the engineer to be there a one day and have the firm, see, everything is done electronically, and that's what one of the firms have told me.
Yeah.
So the general engineering in towns, Clinton's one of them that has a firm that does it, Hebron, there's actually more than I thought.
Right.
You know, again,
What's their comfort level?
as far as,
Using an outside source versus an in-house?
they're comfortable with it. I
Right,
mean,
that's the kind of input I was.
yes, no, they're comfortable with it, it's just that those towns don't, the engineering services said they do sewers, but there's parts of the sewer system that they may not do, and we don't even know if we can afford the cost of it, but if they don't do it, then who does it fall on?
And do we know their annual spend on these services? I'm just curious, the annual spend for hiring a firm that, you know, comes in by the hour versus, you know, an employee?
Right, so it depends on what we tell them we're looking for. It went from 40,000 to 60,000. But then what's in between that, if they have to do it, some kind of, like we hire out engineering services for, let's say, an intersection that we're gonna do.
Even now, even with someone on
What a
firm.
firm would have it, you would pay for it, but you have that package, it's all a big package. The hardest part of this whole thing is gonna be the sewers, I think. Talking to the engineers, it really, what do you want them to do? And they all do meetings, they have to come to meetings, that's all part of it. It's all written out in the RFP, you got so many meetings, wetland meetings, you know.
So did you review this? Did you review the RFP?
Huh?
Did you review the RFP?
Yeah, Mike and I did that.
Okay, and you're satisfied with the
Yeah,
RFP?
we put a component in there for sewers
I saw that.
so that we can ask the questions. And then they'll give you, no one's gonna stick their neck out and give you a number because they don't know exactly what we're asking for. So talking by the phone, it's, you know, you give them a basics of what you're looking at, you know, and I think that's gonna separate and say, you know what, no, we need an engineer on staff. It's an unknown. I think it's worth exploring. You know, I don't know that it's gonna work for us, but I think it's worth doing the homework and seeing. Because when you hear, if we were just a town without sewers, you know, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you know, that's, you know, but again, the sewers is a major part of our town.
Well, all right, so we're at a juncture where it gives us an opportunity to look. So we gotta.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, to go, Tom, no disrespect, but to go and start asking and trying to get more information, it's all gonna be what if, that's what happens when I was asking the question. So
It's better to get the proposals.
No,
in.
yeah, I was more thinking the other towns and, you know, getting having an intimate conversation with people that are actually using it, what their comfort level is, just in general, not in specifics.
I talked to Clinton for an hour and a half.
Right.
Do you, Franny, everybody up here respects you because you do so much in town, do you have a gut feeling one way or the other right now?
I don't, you know, so I'm leaning a little bit toward just having an engineer after talking because of the complexity of the sewer part of it. And I'd like to hear from firms saying, you know, how do you handle that? What is it a by hour thing? You know, and then you don't know how many hours it's gonna be. But I would think if we didn't explore it, we're gonna say, well, maybe we should have done this or maybe we should have done that. And it's, you know, I think it's worth getting the information and seeing it.
Is that sewer piece that's so critical, is that addressed in the RFP appropriately?
Yeah, it's what we threw out there on the day-to-day stuff, yeah. And then we could ask more questions, obviously, when you're doing the interviews.
I think it's important to have it in the RFP because when you respond to the RFP with whatever their offer is, I mean, you'll get to see.
Yes, I think there will be enough information there. You know, and I'm panicking because June 30th, right? It's coming. You know, and I don't need more work. So, you know, that's why I'm thinking if we could do it together and then, you know, and we don't know what the pool of engineers are out there.
Right.
to be honest with you. I know Clinton, not Clinton, who's the, Guilford's looking for an assistant engineer, and they're on their second run. We're trying to find one. So we have our work cut out for the next few months.
Mr. Florio.
Oh. Go ahead, John.
To me, having your own town engineer is wake up. For somebody who is out there in the field, I visit a lot of town halls in my day, and to have the town engineer there all the time is a huge asset. The man knows the town, he knows everything. People, contractors in and out of the town hall constantly. They have to deal with the town engineer on a lot of things. If you go to an outside organization, remember they're a la carte. They're going to give you a price, but then if they have to do inspections, they have to do plan review, they have to do this, they have to do that. It's going to be a la carte. You're going to pay more money for a service, and it's not going to be your own. Someone can't walk into the town hall and say, hey, I got to talk to your town engineer. Oh, we have an engineering service. Here's their number. Contact them. That's not what you want. You want a town engineer who knows your town, is there for anybody that walks into town hall, is there for anybody doing the job and say, hey, could you run out for a second? I've got a problem. Not, we'll contact this engineering company, in a couple hours, they'll probably send somebody out. Doesn't work that way. Believe me, if you want to investigate both ways, fine. You're going to find having your own town engineer is the way to go.
Franny, did you get a sense when talking to Clinton or any of the other towns? Yeah, thank you, John. Did you get any sense that there was an inconvenience to the town residents, like slowing down projects and stuff like that, that it didn't make the response time
They
slower?
didn't really say that, but I don't know if they would or not. But again, some of them have an engineer there in the office for 2 days or a day. But a lot of the stuff they say now that they do it remotely. They can do it because it's planned. Everything is there. But to John's point, and that's what I'm a little bit nervous about myself. But having somebody there or even just the personality at the counter, goes a long way. But but saying that, I still think we need to answer the question.
We need to look at it both ways and have the information.
This is our perfect opportunity to find out.
Right.
I mean, there could be a huge cost savings, or it may not be.
Right.
I mean, I'm leaning toward the engineer, but I think we need to answer that question. And there's a lot of towns that do it, so.
And can we at least approve the job description?
I think we can approve both of them.
Pardon?
I think we can approve both things, the job description and the RFP, so that we can move it forward on there.
I think both things should be approved.
But to a previous issue that Councilor Diamond brought up, I know Mike Paulus provided us with CCM's analysis, comparing salaries. I know when the town planner left, I'm just curious if any job posting would include the salary and whether there needs to be a discussion about whether it's commensurate with our other towns and competitive, and so that if we do get a pool, we're looking at a real pool that's reflective of what we're willing to pay for a town engineer.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment, please? Normally I'd wait till visitor comments, but I think all of us sat here when it's water pollution control time. Kurt speaks, maybe a little bit long, but he knows his job. A complicated sewer system that connects to 3 different towns, pump stations, when they're due to be worked on. Don't burn that man out over in that corner. Because, when somebody doesn't get an answer from the proper authorities, his cell phone rings. You're burning them up now. I'll give you an example. When they were
But hold on. But that's not what's going on.
But
We have an opportunity. We're going to have a vacancy, right? So it's our responsibility to look at all the options. And that's clearly all we're doing. And the intent is not to bury anybody with work or anything like that. That's not what we're doing.
Yeah, Cliff, why don't you let us get this done first, and then you can
What I'd like to say is the fact that Franny said he'd feel comfortable with an on-prem and the man will be there. You're not gonna call a 1-800 number. You know
Randy
what I'm
also
saying?
said that he thinks it's a good idea to look at both options, so. And that's all we're doing.
Yeah, right.
We're just doing our homework, that's all.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the town engineer job description as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? No. Can we have a vote, please, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Franny, thank you, and John, thank you.
And
Okay. So that's all set.
the next one, I would like to make a motion to approve RFP number 14, 2021 for town engineer consultant services.
I'll second that.
Okay. Same people, Michelle. Any discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on. Award of bid RFP number 1, 2021-2022, solid waste and recycling service contract.
Yeah, so there's a packet of information there on this, and as you'll see, there two proposals came in for this RFP. We have the current hauler, Johns, and All American Waste that responded to the RFP. So the Haz Waste Committee had several meetings to analyze and evaluate the proposals, and you know, there's a lot of moving parts in there, but I think they did a good job in terms of getting through the process. And ultimately, as a recommendation, they sent a 2-page letter because it was a very tough analysis, tough decision for them to come up and make this recommendation. And I think it really breaks down to, according to the letter there, you'll see that the number one issue in terms of security, they framed it so much security, but stability, I think, is the way they framed the issue. And of course, that's the nature of what we're faced with right now. Is we've been talking about this for some time, that the industry's been upended and so much chaos and uncertainty about what was going to happen. So we ended up, as you know, with MIRA, and that was a stopgap measure. And as we spoke at the last committee meeting, to council meeting, to end the contract with MIRA and get out because they're going under. We were just trying to get through the process of getting apples to apples in terms of the analysis and look at what would be best for the community, what would be the best fit, right? Beyond just looking at the numbers and looking at long term. Obviously, this is structured as a 5-year base with two-year renewal terms, right? So there was a lot to consider. So I thought the letter was helpful, and again, it's a recommendation to the council as they see it, and it's your decision in terms of contract award. But the analysis provided in the spreadsheet, we're looking at All Americans' proposal. There were meetings in which to clarify these proposals. So you look at the beginning, all-in prices and all waste was about, I think, 10,000, just like shy of 10,000 lower than John's. John's bid both the Part A and Part B. All American Waste only bid Part B. So the committee wrestled with getting apples to apples in that case, looking at the all-in price versus the service and hauling and tipping. So the analysis got into during this process. John's is our current hauler, and we dictate and told them through this contract with Mira that that's where they're going to take our stuff. We were solicited by Country Recycling out of Wallingford during this process. So it introduced an opportunity to look at Johns' proposal, as they currently have, if the town were to direct them to go to Wallingford facility, which is only 7 miles down the road versus, or 10 maybe, versus 30 miles to Hartford, there's obviously a difference in terms of costs and expenses for that. So that altered, if the town then directs to Wallingford versus Mira or any other place, affects the proposal in terms of their bid for Part A. So what you have there in this spreadsheet after the, I think it's fourth page, is the All-American versus Johns proposal that both are significantly reduced versus the original proposal. So Always went from 287,657 down to 1,215,312, and John's went down to 1.199822, and that reflects for John's the difference of going to Hartford and going someplace in their backyard in terms of Wallingford. There are other tangibles, factors that the committee looked at beyond just the tipping fees and the all-in price and the long-term impact of these numbers, but about technology for all waste and having stability, that they have their own facility, they have new trucks on the road, they have technology in terms of cameras on the trucks and iPads and dedicated professionals for social media and account management and customer service. So there was a lot of different things to weigh, and I think ultimately, again, back to the word of stability, I think the committee felt that long-term stability would be in the interest of going with All American Waste because of the fact that the Covanta plant may or may not be in play 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. So what you have before you, and I think the spreadsheet analysis, looking at that, you have the recommendation, but then you also have John's is actually lower than All-American.
So on this comparison, you said John's quoted in both A and B, and All-American only quoted in B. So on this chart, is this B compared to B?
No, this is A compared to B. It's just getting to what we currently have versus Always is the all-in price, and John's is the the model that we currently have.
Well, the model we currently have, we pay the tipping fees. So this shows tipping fees on here. So is John paying those tipping fees, or are we paying those tipping fees?
That's just to illustrate what wherever you go, you've got tipping fees. So even with Always, we're paying those directly.
So All-American is all in, and John's, there's two component, right. What the town pays in tipping fees plus John's contract? Right. And it totals what's on this?
Right, and unless I'm wrong, that's the way we currently have the service fee for John's, and that's the way they broke it out, the service fee, and it originally was $770 in their analysis, or in their bid, I'm sorry, $720, and now they're down to $660.
I guess part of my concern is that we would end up in the same situation we did now, in that what happens if something happens to the Wallingford facility and they, because I know they have, it has been told to us that they have a number of active lawsuits right now. So what happens a year from now, they close down a year and a half, and now they have to take it someplace else, but we're paying the fees, and now we have to pay those increased fees, and there's nothing here that projects what they might be, because we don't know where they're gonna go, and All-American Waste is defined for 5 years.
But hold on a second.
That is correct.
If John's quoted it both ways, why are we looking at this measuring the same thing here?
B against B.
Right. I mean, if we're measuring B against A, there's something wrong with our thought process.
It's not apples to apples.
Right.
It's hard to make that
Because
decision.
you can piece things together and massage it in there, but we're not looking at the same picture here. We've made it to look like the same picture, but it's not the same.
No,
it's not the same thing.
They're different models.
Right.
It's
So,
just and one is the current, and that's the one we're in. So taking a look and trying to evaluate whether or not the current model with a different location like Wallingford drives the number down, and it did, and that was the exercise.
right. And I think the idea is we may not want the risk. So if we don't want the risk,
I completely agree.
then we need to look at
B versus B.
B versus B.
What would John's look like if it was designed the way you presented All-American Waste, all in?
Do we have that number? Do we have the numbers the same as all Americans?
No, because they again, this was a modification in terms of talking with them about Wallingford, because I don't know what the answer is, but my intuition tells me that they're not going to find a location cheaper than Wallingford. I could be wrong.
Right, but we need to let them tell us that.
Yeah.
Right.
But just from a sheer location standpoint in terms of driving distance to wherever they end up taking. Because again, the risk is there, and clearly that's what the committee looked at, and that's why they came up with the recommendation. And again, it would be, to Rose's question, if Covanta, formerly Covanta, but if the Wallingford facility goes out, then we're forced back to the table with Johns to negotiate to then say, okay, we're not going to Wallingford anymore. Where are we going? We're going to tell them what's the best deal? Where can they go?
Excuse me, Mike. A couple people down here just have to be speaking to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, just on the issue of risk and the Wallingford plant closing, that just throws us a monkey wrench and it forces us back to the table to negotiate what those prices and where the contract would be going. And again, in all of this analysis, the wild card is the tonnage. So while we have indications of tipping fees, right, every given month is going to be different in terms of what you collect.
But I assume in the analysis,
we did have a number.
The same tonnage.
Right. Yes, of course, yes. We analysis in terms of,
okay.
right, using the same number offered out there. But again, going forward in the future, there's no hard and fast number because it's not consistent, right? So you have a tipping fee, so call it 90, 95, whether it's 100, whatever it is. Every single month, you're going to experience a higher or lower, and we're just trying to hit the average, annual average. But again, what we've experienced in the past year with COVID and bulky waste, we went through the roof. And I don't have a crystal ball to say, and so again, paying the tipping fees really depends on what's collected. So
right, but we can use
Right.
I would think you'd use last month.
Yes.
Go month by month,
Yeah.
previous 12 months, and use that as your best guess.
Right.
Well, if we-
Best prediction of the future is the history, right?
Well, if we had the last 12 months and versus the 12 months prior, so we have pre-COVID and COVID, so we can look at it to see how much COVID really did increase it, so that we can, if we have to up that average, or whatever average they used in here, that we can do that now for budget purposes.
Absolutely, but I think we need to look at the same data, B2B.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and maybe you can ask, the vendors if they have to resubmit something or whatever, but we need to look at B2B, the same bid, so that we can make it.
So what's the drop dead date that we have to vote on this? I know, we need to have time for whoever gets the thing to notify them, and, the contract runs out on June 30th, and I'm assuming you used some of this number here, some combination in our current budget going forward for 21-22.
Yes.
So that if we have to make some changes, it's not that drastic. But I just think we need more information to compare this.
Like, was the only way that John's quoted it with the Wallingford location, or did they quote other locations too?
Here, so
Yeah.
maybe we can.
I think they were based on us staying in and going to Mira. But again, they have, and I know because we talked, they have, again, because
John told us that
conversation, right, they can,
that they
right,
have
they
4 or
have
5 places
options.
they can go.
They have options.
The reason I ask is because everything on here says the Wallingford location.
Yeah.
The one main concern I have is that if there is problems with Wallingford, I don't want to have to go back to the table with somebody. If I can make a decision to not have to go back to the table with somebody, and I know what the contract is, and it's set in stone, that makes me feel better, right?
Right.
If John's knows or gave estimates on a different place that has a lot more stable outlook than Wallingford does, then that makes me feel a little bit better about John's. But if they only quoted Wallingford, I don't want to have to go back to the table in a couple of years or whatever and have to deal with all of that.
I know in the notes here it says if Wallingford closes, then the town and John, we have to renegotiate trip and mileage. I don't want to be in that position.
I don't want to be in that position either.
Or it says if they close, then wherever they go, it's expected to increase based on alternative disposal recycling facilities that have not been identified. Those are 2 big unknowns to me.
You want to say anything?
Yeah, we did not present Wallingford. The town contacted Wallingford, and the town asked us if they could make a contract with Wallingford, would we reduce the rate being it's less of a haul? We have our own facilities to get rid of the material, and we put that in both bid packages. I don't know why you don't have it there, but we do have.
So that must be the B, the option B.
And they presented Wallingford, not us. The town came to us and said, hey, if we could make a deal with Wallingford, how much would you reduce the rate because it's so close to home compared to going to Hartford?
Let's table this until we get B2B and we have.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, I think it's unfair to us that if you did do that we're not seeing that.
Right.
Before we table, can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go right in.
Mike, when you hear the term all in with waste, is all in? Is that, in other words, whatever the price is, that's what it is? That's the total amount? In other words, they take care of the waste, they get rid of it, whatever it costs, it costs. Is all in?
Because there's variables, and Michelle, if you want to speak to that in terms of the current versus the new method versus the current method.
On the proposal that was sent in by All-American, they had, as backup to their proposal, their service fee and then the estimated tipping fees based on
a sheet we gave them of MSW, which is your trash, recycling, and bulk. And as Mike had said, the bulk this past year was like we've never seen before. So both companies submitted a proposal, excuse me, based on, it was 4,400 tons per year in MSW, and what the bulk was and what the recycling was. Currently under Mirror, our recycling is free. That ends June 30th. To stay with Mirror for any future times, July 1 and on, their MSW went up to $105 per ton. We're currently paying 91 or 93. So when All American sent theirs in, theirs is based on an estimate per month of what the tipping fees will cost. So each month we'll get a bill for, and all the tickets like we do from Mirror currently, of saying that we've had 100 tons of MSW and so much recycling and so forth, and I'll get a bill for that. Next month, if it's 125 tons of MSW recycling and so forth, that bill will change every month throughout.
But it's based on tonnage, not the tipping fee charge changing, correct?
Well, again, they're going to give us a bill for their service fee and all the cost of the tonnage, and then make that one bill. So the unknown every month is what the MSW and the recycling is going to cost the town. Both
based on tonnage, not tipping fees.
The per pound price or per ton price, does that remain the same?
That's in the, what's listed in
That
here,
remains the same.
it says the MSW tipping fee is $91 a ton for year one. So every month, I understand the bill could be different because your tonnage is different.
Correct.
But does the tipping fee remain the same based on the information that's in this?
For the first 12 months.
Right, and then the next year there was an increase, so
Correct.
the next 12 months should be the price that's listed on here.
Correct.
That tonnage should be the same
Correct.
on there. So it looks like All American Waste, according to this, for the first year, they aren't charging us for recycling because there's no tipping fee.
Correct, that was their second proposal to the town.
Okay, so even though we're not with Mira, because we sent the letter in and we discontinued Mira as of June 30th,
Right.
they're still giving us recycling for the first year free
Right.
on here. Okay. All right.
So either way, we really don't know what the cost of all of our sanitation is going to be over 5. We don't know the total because we don't know what the future holds.
No,
matter
We don't
what
know
way
the
we go.
tonnage.
We don't know the
Yeah,
tonnage
no matter which way
every
we
month.
go.
You can estimate it, though,
Yeah.
like we were talking about.
Well, that's like I said,
But we don't know
put
the exact
the
number.
RFP
Right.
out.
It's not a definite.
We had a spreadsheet of MSW recycling bulk, and that's how they submitted their proposal on the actual numbers we had paid to Mirror the prior year. So we have a huge spreadsheet at the office of how much is per month, and then obviously the total for the year.
Yeah, as long as they were both using the same numbers,
They
that's comparing apples with apples.
It was
It's the
included in the
tonnage,
fee.
it's the tipping fee.
Tipping fee
Which,
changes.
yes, which will dictate based on the tonnage that's
And
used.
that doesn't matter who we go with.
Correct. It's,
Yeah, so it's.
yeah.
So it's vague either way.
We just needed to know, I mean, the thing that's concrete and is the tipping fee
Right.
on here.
Right.
But according to the way this was presented for John's, it's all based that it goes to Wallingford. And our concern is what happens if Wallingford closes, but John's, according to them, they did present to us the same way All American did, so that we're comparing apples with apples.
I'm frustrated because I don't like the way this was presented to us. This seems biased, I'll be honest with you.
Dennis, I can check tomorrow, but I believe when your proposal was submitted, it was based on still going to Mirror. But I'll double check, excuse me. See if there were other places that were listed there that you would have either be
And I'm
wheel
pretty sure we
rated.
based our number on the average, not billing monthly on what's picked up.
Okay. But I don't believe it said you could go to Wheeler Grader or you could go to
Essex, Wallingford, I mean, there was a couple of them that Andy had presented last week, like different places. He said they have 4 or 5 different places they can go.
But that wasn't part of the proposal from what I recall.
Right, so this specifies just Wallingford.
Wallingford had contacted us and wanted to know if we wanted to do business with them. And they gave us a rate that was for 5 years with a CIP cap. So through all of this, as we were negotiating back and forth with All-American and with Johns, they came in with a second proposal of lower rates. So when the committee put this together, it was based on, as Mike had said previously, what would happen if, Wallingford went out of business, and then Andy and Dennis came to the meeting or whatever last week and said, okay, we have the alternatives. I don't have that information. I wasn't at the meeting. So if their tonnage rate is an average of no matter where they're going to take it, then they're going to stick with that for the 5 years. And that was in the original proposal.
I mean, we either need to know how John's is, like you said, if it's an average of wherever they can take it, or we tell All-American, what is your proposal if you go to Wallingford, so that we're comparing Wallingford with Wallingford.
Well, All-American owns their own facilities, so.
Well, yeah, but that's not comparing, that's not fair to John's to say, well, they're going to their own facility and we've chosen Wallingford for you to go to. And maybe they could take it someplace else and have it more concrete of going someplace else. It's just not comparing apples with apples here.
Do we care where it goes? Is there any reason for us to care where it goes?
No.
It's all about the tipping fee, right? And that's
right. So it should be like a Warby,
Right, but it has to be it has to be all inclusive.
No, I get that. But
right now it's not. John's is not an all inclusive. We're still paying all the tip, like we're doing now with Mira. We're paying all the tipping fees, and then theirs is just the base contract. But All American, it's all inclusive. You can't compare those two.
But just keep in mind the price from All American is an estimate based on the tonnage that we gave them. So it puts us in the same situation that we currently have now. We have a different bill every month for the tipping fees, no matter who we go with.
Yeah, but it's based on the tonnage, not the tipping fee changing.
Correct. The All-American prices are set prices for each year per ton.
Based on the tonnage,
and
yes.
There's an escalator in there, they are all figured in, and those are the numbers for each year per ton.
Based on the figures, yes.
That is collected.
We understand that part of it. It's because you both use the same tonnage.
Correct.
So that's fine.
Right.
That's comparing apples with apples.
Correct.
But it's not comparing apples with apples when John's is split, that we're paying the tipping fees and everything else, and All Americans is all inclusive. That's where I'm having a hard time, and I think from what I heard from the other members, that's where they're having a hard time also. That the two proposals presented to us are not the same.
Well, All American did have in their proposal a separate sheet with the service fee, and then there was the total of the 1.2 million or whatever the heck it was each year. So there is an actual spreadsheet from them that their service fees X amount of dollars per.
Yeah, we have that on here. Yeah. There's a service fee column for each of them. So I'm assuming that's the base contract without tipping fees.
Correct.
Dennis, how many different places do you use that could do the same job?
For disposal?
Yeah, for disposal. How many different options do you have?
Or?
In ballpark, what do the prices vary? I mean, how close are they in price per ton?
I would say anywhere 25 a ton to 30 a ton fluctuation.
$25 to $30 a ton fluctuation?
Yeah, depending on where you go.
And how much has that changed since all the COVID stuff has started? How much has that gone up?
Well, Hartford accepts a good majority of the state, so that's really throwing a wrench in things for the towns that go there. You know, being that they're closing, so fees are going up. Fees are going up everywhere because it's all exporting out of state now.
All those 4 or 5 different places you use, how much has their numbers gone up since last year?
5 out of 4 of them, 3 of them have gone up tremendously. Or projecting to go up tremendously.
So really, we don't know the numbers, where it's going to go to, right? As far as tons, per ton.
Yeah, when we put it in there,
They
you said the average that she gave us. The locked in number based on the averages from prior years for the disposal.
I'd like to see an apples to apples. I'd like to see John's, us not tell John's to use Wallingford, have them give us their best, where they think is the most secure place, where they'd like to take our garbage, rather than us. That's why I say I think it was biased. I mean, somebody told him to use Wallingford, so he did. He uses Wallingford, and then somebody floats around that idea that Wallingford's not stable, which is not fair to him. And I just don't like the way this looks. I want to see it apples to apples. Let him make his best proposal. Let him propose where he wants to bring our waste. Let him tell us that it's stable, so we don't have to worry about coming back to the table. And let's talk about this when we can look at it apples to apples.
I agree.
Table it?
So can...
Yeah, we're kind
Paul
of to get
would
some...
be willing to meet with council, and if you want to give an opportunity to both of us to come back and meet with you and explain our bit better, I'd be willing to commit to that. Dennis, you good with that?
So I think what I could try and do is the same, all in apples to apples, same comparison, work with both, and try to tee something up for Tuesday the 13th if possible, if not the 20th. Either way.
Yeah.
And again, and I have no, again, it's the council's decision, but I think inviting them both to the next, whenever that is, either the 13th or the 20th, inviting them back to go through that refined proposals.
Yeah, we just need it so that we're comparing apples with apples, and this is not here. So whatever you need to do with them prior to our next meeting, when you think you can present it to us, whether it's the 13th or 20th, doesn't make any difference to me.
Need a motion
To table, that's all we're going to do. I'll make a motion to table this.
I'll second.
Michelle, motion made by Councilman Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Any further discussion? Vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So that's,
Sorry, guys, but the town manager will be in contact with you to try and get it in a format that...
Okay. All right, next is discussion and approval of request to modify bid review process for the Permanent Project Building Committee.
Yeah, this is what I mentioned when Rusty was talking about the two items for hazmat and deep in terms of the engineering services. So he had mentioned it that one of the options would be to continue under his contract. But when he got into the costs, I think the numbers, if I have correct, were sizable. With I think $241,000 for one and $60,000 for the other. So then rethinking that would have to be a bid process. So in the discussion at the Permanent Project Building Committee, the concern was about timing and going back and forth from the permanent project review and to the council to approve specs. So they were just trying to maybe step up the process by one one step with respect to having the council give them the authority to generate and write the RFP or bid spec and send it out on the street, as long as we follow the regular process of review, where the architect obviously is generating most of the work anyway and writing it before it comes here to the council. So leaving it in their hands for just the specs to save some time and not the award, having the award come back here to the council, but just saving an intermediate step, if you will, by allowing them to do the work and issue the RFPs.
And then they would, after the RFPs come in and they review everything, they would make a recommendation
exactly.
A recommendation to the council?
Make a recommendation to the council, and that one might, save half a step in terms of a week, because they meet every Monday, and they could, continue to move things along, and then when it's ready to award, make the recommendation to the council.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that town council hereby modifies its policy of review and approval of bid specifications to allow the PPBC to handle the issuance of RFPs that are related to the construction of the new high school building project and any future projects assigned to the PPBC.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Discussion? You have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is review and approval of bid specifications for RFP number 13, 2020, 2021 material testing services for the new North Brantford High School.
Yeah, this is the first of two items that Rusty mentioned is on, that he prepared for your review and approval.
Just checking, but did both these go before the town attorney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion to approve RFP number 13, 2021 material testing services for the new North Brantford High School.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Discussion? Vote, please, Michelle.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is review and approval of bid specifications, RFP number 15, 2020, 2021, code review North Brantford High School project.
So is this the other thing Rusty talked about?
Yeah, and this will help in preparation that this is, the way I heard from Rusty and understood it, that this is an eligible reimbursable cost, and I guess something recent or relatively new that the state does in terms of third-party code review. So it's ineligible, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off our local building official to have this go out to a third party. It preps them for the meeting at the state level.
Was this in his original estimate of 66 million? I mean, or is this something totally new? I don't know where to find it on this list.
I'm not sure where it is on the list.
I mean, I just don't want to approve things on the project, and now all of a sudden we find out later that we added the cost to the project. I just...
That may be taken under, in order to get your money back from the state, you have to follow certain reviews and.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering if it's in his...
I think that's one of the ones that state mandated.
Well, they have on line 14 or someplace, it has an independent code compliance review. Is that what we're talking about here?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so there is a cost of $25,000 in the budget here. So, okay, I will approve RFP 15 2021 code review NBHS project.
Second.
Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Discussion? Can I have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye. Next, we have discussion and action in the matter of financial advisor agreement.
Yeah, laid out some documents for you. Mark Chapman, the gentleman who's been before you several times over the years, our financial advisor. You may remember him being part of Independent Bond and Investment Consulting, IBIC. A few years back, he and his partner decided that owning your own business wasn't at all cracked up to be. They decided to join another firm. That firm was Hilltop Securities. You have attachment 1 in your packet is an email we got from them saying basically that they are shutting down their operation in Connecticut, Hilltop Securities, leaving Mark and Bill. Attachment 2 is that they have signed up with a firm, Unistack, out of Long Island, folks that they know for many years. Attachment 3 is the contract they provided from the new company, Unistack. The fees are the same. Attachment 4 in your packet is the good counselor reviewed the documents and finds them in good order. So we suggest, we're on the verge of going into the market in the next probably 30 to 45 days to approve this contract so we can utilize the services of Unistat, more namely Mark Chapman, to assist us.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Be it hereby resolved that the North Brantford Town Council authorizes Michael T. Paulus to sign the attached advisor agreement between the Town of North Brantford and Unistat Services Incorporated pursuant to a favorable review by the town attorney.
Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Zampano. Discussion? Vote please, Michelle. Aye. Okay, next we have citizen statements and petitions.
So there's just one thing we need to take care of before we end this meeting, and that is our scheduled meetings, budget workshops for April 7th, which is tomorrow night, and April 8th, which is Thursday night. We currently have 2 council members that are on vacation this week, and I know Councilor Diamond cannot attend Thursday night either. I'm not sure if everyone else is scheduled, but that would be a third of the council that wouldn't be present. So I would like to make a motion to cancel both workshops for Wednesday and Thursday, and go with our next scheduled one, which is Tuesday, April 13th at Town Hall. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions regarding budget in order to help the 13th meeting kind of move along, I'm going to prepare a list of items that I've come up with, and I'll email them to all council members that we can submit to Anthony ahead of time so he can get the information to us by Monday of next week so that we have that information before we start the budget workshop on Tuesday night.
And you want us to send you some things?
Yes, if you have anything, I would like to get the list to Anthony by Thursday.
Okay.
Tonight's Tuesday, so by Thursday I would like, so if anyone has anything, please feel free to email me, and then I'll put the list together and email it to all council members so they have it along with Anthony.
Okay, thank you, Rose.
So there's a motion and a second on the floor to cancel.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Diamond. How was that? Any discussion? Can I have a vote, Michelle?
Aye.
Okay, citizen statements and petitions.
And before we get there, Mayor, I apologize, but I did put out, you should all have something that was hopefully at your seat, and I also emailed it today in terms of an opportunity for funding at the federal level through our Congresswoman Deloro's office about community project funding requests. And the reason I bring it to you is an opportunity, and the window for this is Friday. So I put together just a short list for different community projects that would be funded under different agencies and federal agencies like HUD and transportation and so forth. So I'm just looking for guidance. I've just indicated 5 that came up through basic conversations. The council may have other ideas. It's a very competitive process. The Congresswoman will probably, from the email, the indication is that she'll be submitting 10 projects from the district. So I believe all the towns in the district will be submitting projects, and I think we should be submitting more than one in hopes that we get one to come our way. So I have the roof, and maybe that's the highest priority, maybe not, but these are in most cases funded at 80-20, maybe 75-25, but certainly higher than anything we're going to see at the state level. If we did the roof with the state, would be lucky if we got 50%. So that's just one. The Emergency Operations Center is another. Local bridges, the natural gas line extension up to Stanley T. Williams and TVES it was something this council was approached a couple of years ago, and then of course there's a rehab of Poco grounds, and there's many other that we could go through. But I'm just looking.
Like this end of the table wants to know why you wouldn't include the middle school roof in there.
I'm sorry, the middle. Oh,
Well, the average of the projects is 250 to 2.5, so we would have to break it out.
I missed that because I didn't have time to really read.
Yeah.
So, because I thought of that also. I mean, if we, based on the numbers we got tonight from Rusty, that is quite the project. I think, because, like the EOS, like the ones that are Homeland Security, Transportation, and I think 1, 2, and 3 are probably the ones that we stand the best chance at. 4 and 5 are okay, but I think our best shots are 1, 2, and 3. Just because each one hits a different area between HUD, Homeland Security, and Transportation.
Well, probably 3 probably would be a strong possibility.
Yeah, and if we can take that, if we get even any kind of funding on that and take it off our CIP list on there, that just opens up our CIP list to other things. That's right, even with a 20% match, still cheaper than funding all of it. So.
Citizen statements.
I just feel tonight you treated the town engineer and the sort of a lot of time for the newer council people. I don't think you realize how important the first job is. When you start going time and materials, after hours, if you have a sewer pump station blow up at midnight on a Saturday night, what are you going to do? Dial 1-800 an engineer who's not familiar with the system. Now you got sewage backing up halfway through the town, but you don't even know which town it goes to because the prince will be there. I think you really have to look at a permanent replacement for Kurt. You really don't know what he does. I've been here long enough. I really know what he does. And it's a very complicated, you can't put it on Franny's shoulders to keep up with it. You just can't. And that's who would get the call on a weekend if you go to dial up an engineer service. Anybody, like you say, you gotta be familiar with your town, and we are the weirdest town in the world. We're L-shaped because of the water company in Trap Rock. Our poop goes every which way but doesn't stay here. Our water is some city water, mostly well. So there's so much that Kurt knows in an emergency that you would get. And guess what? If you have him on salary, you know your expenses. They're set. So when you have a disaster, you don't have to open up the checkbook. He'll be right, whoever the engineer will have built up a little back knowledge, and he'll service your needs. Time and materials, anybody that works that way loves that because all they have to do is find one little thing wrong and they can triple the cost of your bill. And you're not going to have any continuity. And believe me, with a sewage system that's old as it is in this town, you need continuity and somebody is familiar with it. That's just one half of the battle. Like he said back there, just when you need somebody in a hurry, like when they were paving up around Birdland, as Franny likes to call it, they ran into some engineering issues under the road. When they scraped the road down to repave it, there was piping and stuff. Franny grabs Kurt, they run up there. Tilcon had an answer in 20 minutes of what they needed to do. Could they bury the drainage pipe? Could they rearrange it? What are you going to do if you don't have an engineer that can make that decision? So I think when the time comes, please don't do what's best economically. Do best what's for the town. Get yourself a permanent engineer. Then the contractors are coming to the building office, they can get an answer right then and there. They don't have to come back when there's an engineer, and this person will just know. Just like your building officials you have now, they just know. You've got to have this in this town. If you start to lose that, you lose the town. And we've made a lot of big mistakes, and I hate to see them happen again and again and again. So I just feel, don't look at the bottom line, look at the sewer line. That's going to be my motto. If it breaks, your bottom line is going to break too. Because you're going to have somebody that just doesn't know this town. And living here as long as I have, I still don't know a lot about this town. But I know enough when to say something that I feel you're going down the road the wrong way. So thank you.
Thanks, Cliff. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.